Chapter 2147. Hearing this, all the scholars and womenfolk present nodded their heads in agreement. Even Zhang Yuyao and the other two girls did not look too good. Zhang Feng could not help but laugh. The saints have taught us that scholars like us study the books of the saints. What we do is to benefit the people. I'm sure you all know what happened in Jiangnan over the past few days. It was all because of Mr. Gao's narrow-mindedness and arrogance. As for Miss Zhao, as Zhang Feng spoke, he could not help but glance at Zhao Yu on the second floor. At this moment, Zhao Yu was glaring fiercely at Zhang Feng, as if to say that if Zhang Feng dared to say anything, she would fight Zhang Feng to the death. Zhang Feng was so angry that he gritted his teeth. But there was nothing he could do. If he were to say that he had touched her but that day, then it would definitely be a fight to the death. After thinking about it, Zhang Feng was too lazy to explain. He asked, "Sir, let's not pretend to be polite. Just say it, what do you want? And I don't have time to play with you here." Wu Liuji was trembling all over. He was clearly talking about serious matters with Zhang Feng, but he did not expect that not only did this guy not appreciate it, but he also said that he was waiting for someone to play with him? What was this? This was a slap to their faces. Wu Liuji couldn't help but laugh as he looked at Zhang Feng with bloodshot eyes. Since Prince Zhang wants to talk about serious matters, then let's talk about serious matters. Prince Zhang, let's talk about the content of the poem. It just so happens that I invited a big shot today. As he spoke, Wu Liuji bowed to the third floor and said, "Mr. Yushan, I've heard that you and Zhang Feng had a poetry competition during the Mid-Autumn Festival in Cheng. You're also a big shot in the literary world. I invited you today because I can't bear to see bad people disgrace the way of the saints. I hope Mr. Yushan won't blame me." Mr. Yushan? Zhang Feng was stunned. He could not react. He had thought about who these people might invite, but he never thought that they would invite Mr. Yushan. When he was in Cheng, and he had met this Master Yushan twice. He had the intention to rope in this great scholar of the Chui clan from Clear River City, yet he'd never been able to find an opportunity. Never had he imagined that this great scholar would actually come knocking on his door today. Zhang Feng had never thought about whether or not his identity would be exposed. As for being exposed, Zhang Feng wasn't afraid of being exposed. Now that he had a foundation and what he was about to do here, even if he was exposed, it also saved him a lot of trouble. He could take these students under his wing. Although these guys didn't have the ability to do anything, their ability to spread rumors was top-notch. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng felt relieved. He smiled and looked at the third floor. At this moment, everyone's gaze was on the third floor. This study room wasn't famous. There were at least 800 such study rooms in Jiangnan. However, this study room was more popular than others. One of the reasons was because of the name of Yu Shinan. The great scholar of the present age, Li Shimin's favorite, had been to the study room. Which student didn't want to pay respect to him? However, at this moment, there was a great scholar here? What did this mean to all the students in the study room? This was simply a fatal attraction. Under the expectant gaze of all the students, the door of a room on the third floor was pushed open by two maids in green clothes. The next moment, a white-haired but extremely energetic old man appeared on the railing of the third floor. As soon as he appeared, all the students and officials were in an uproar. However, Mr. Yushan didn't pay attention to everyone. He didn't even look at the young master of the Wu family who invited him. Instead, he glanced at Zhang Feng in confusion. However, when he saw Zhang Feng looking at him with a calm gaze, he couldn't help but be enlightened. What kind of trick was this little guy up to again? He had talked to Zhang Feng twice and had inquired about Zhang Feng before. He had some understanding of Zhang Feng's personality, especially what happened in the Shao Mountain Market at that time, as well as killing the old big family in Guangzhong and Chang, and out of anger for a student. This was unprecedented even in history. However, he did it. Moreover, it made all the students in the world clap their hands in joy. If he wasn't a talent, who would dare to do it so ostentatiously? Moreover, after the event, he personally wore mourning clothes and sent the students home. This spirit and courage made Mr. Yushan admire him. This was a kind of appreciation purely based on knowledge, excluding political background, family, and other factors. At this moment, who didn't know that Zhang Feng had come to Jiangnan? However, who would have thought that the great scholar of a generation, the dean of White Deer College, would come to participate in this kind of small matter? This time, Mr. Yushan had come to Yuezhou to visit Zhang Feng and ask if he could ease the relationship between the two sides. At this moment, seeing Zhang Feng pretend not to know him, Mr. Yushan instantly understood what Zhang Feng meant. He didn't say anything. He just waved his hand and said to all the students and officials, "The old man came this time only to witness this Prince Zhang's work. As for your grudges, the old man will not participate." Seeing this, Wu Liuji couldn't help but be overjoyed. He hurriedly asked, "Mr. Yushan, rumor has it that in Chang, you and Zhang Feng competed in poetry. Is this true?" Chapter 2148. Yes. Mr. Yushan answered truthfully. Seeing this, Wu Liuji hurriedly asked, "Mr. Yushan, is it this person?" In an instant, the atmosphere in the study room quieted down. The only people who were not worried were Zhang Yuyao and the other girls. Even Wu Man, who was on the second floor, looked at Yu and the other girls, especially Zhao Yu. She didn't see a trace of nervousness in them. What did this mean? This meant that Zhang Feng was really that Zhang Feng? This incredible idea made Wu Man feel uncomfortable. She really couldn't figure out why he didn't use this name if he was really a great scholar. Why did he participate in such a poetry competition? At this moment, everyone looked at Mr. Yushan. Just when Mr. Yushan didn't know how to answer, Zhang Feng knocked on the teacup in his hand and said calmly, "Mr. Wu, right? Since it's a poetry competition, why don't we have a fair one? And this kind of thing, isn't it obvious? If Mr. Yushan knows me, why didn't you say hello?" Yes. Prince Zhang is right. Old man also said that today we are only here to witness the poetry competition, nothing else. Mr. Yushan sighed when he heard Zhang Feng's words. He could only follow his meaning. Moreover, he had also studied Zhang Feng's poems and even made annotations for Zhang Feng's poems. But he didn't know where Zhang Feng's poems were. But he couldn't bring himself to ask Zhang Feng the truth. This was also an opportunity. Seeing that Mr. Yushan had said so, Wu Liuji couldn't say anything. He could only say, "Since Mr. Yushan has said so, then please tell me, where is the Yellow River and Wushan in Zhang Feng's poem?" The Yellow River is the big river where the 8 rivers in Chang converge. It is also the big Yellow River that passes through Luozhou and connects to the Jianghuai area. So I call it the Yellow River. May I ask why not? This, in an instant. Everyone who had read Zhang Feng's poems suddenly understood. The Yellow River. In this era, it was only called a Big Yellow River. It didn't have a real name. As for the Yangtze River, it was also called the Great River in this era. The Great River and the Great River were the Yangtze River and the Yellow River. However, at this moment, after Zhang Feng's explanation, everyone finally understood most of the places in Zhang Feng's poem. So that's how it was. However, wasn't this a little too ridiculous? She didn't even say anything, but you actually added annotations to her poem? Although most people vaguely felt that Zhang Feng should be that Zhang Feng, there were too many doubts in their hearts. At this moment, they were all asking about the things in Zhang Feng's poem that they were confused about. Instead, Wu Liuji was squeezed so tightly that he didn't have time to interrupt. He could only yell anxiously. However, not many people paid him any attention. Every one of Zhang Feng's poems could be said to be unique. There weren't many opportunities like this. Almost as soon as Zhang Feng's poems spread to Jiangnan, the imperial officials in Jiangnan had to buy a manuscript even if they had to spend all their fortune. Only in this way could they show their identity. However, there were many things that they didn't understand that puzzled everyone. At this moment, almost everyone had already confirmed Zhang Feng's identity. However, the more it was so, the greater the shock in everyone's hearts. Especially Wu Liuji. The greater the shock in his heart, the more doubts he had. Why didn't Zhang Feng come to Jiangnan with the identity of a great scholar at the beginning? Why was his age so young? Why was he so? A series of questions made Wu Liuji dumbfounded at this moment. He stared blankly at Zhang Feng, who answered calmly and didn't know what to do. Suddenly he found a problem. That was, although Zhang Feng answered smoothly, he came from Chang. He should know more about Chang, and in Zhang Feng's many poems than them. Moreover, he dared to come here today, which meant that he already knew from the beginning that these things would happen, so he had planned from the beginning. All these were arranged in advance. At the thought of this, Wu Liuji's mood instantly became better. He turned out to be the same as them. He also had some understanding of Zhang Feng's poems in advance. This was easy to handle. Thinking of this, Wu Liuji shouted, "Although what you said is very good, these things all happened after Zhang Feng's poems spread out. As long as one makes some annotations on his own ideas, it can almost be passed off as true. Moreover, this person came from Chang. Since he dared to do these things before Zhang Feng came to Jiangnan, it means that he has a conspiracy. Moreover, Chang, and is under the emperor's rule and in front of White Deer College. Naturally, there are more chances to know poems and see Zhang Feng, so I think this person's intention is to be punished. He is a fake." In an instant, Wu Liuji's voice made all the people who were puzzled become confused. Even Mr. Yushan was stunned for a moment. But when he wanted to say something, he gave up when he saw that almost everyone had the same attitude. After all, Zhang Feng could even handle the emperor. These small fries should not be a problem for Zhang Feng. Moreover, he also wanted to know what else this kid knew. On a whim, he said, "Since this young master thinks that Zhang Feng is a fake, then Prince Zhang and Old Man have a fair way. What do you think?" Chapter 2149. Instantly, all the officials nodded their heads. It was good that a great scholar was here. Mr. Yushan is right. We will listen to Mr. Yushan. Moreover, I am also puzzled. This kid looks younger than us. How can he be so talented? How did he come up with so many amazing works? And he came up with more than 100 poems. In the midst of the discussion, everyone began to suspect that Zhang Feng was here. Especially Wu Liuji. He was looking at Zhang Feng with joy. However, Zhang Feng did not care. He could remember most of the poems from the Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties. There was no benefit in transmigrating, but his memory was good. The things that he couldn't remember clearly in the past were now etched into his mind like they were carved by a knife and an axe. He did not know if it was because the system felt that he was a scam. Speaking of the system, Zhang Feng had the urge to curse. What happened to half a year? How long has it been? Why is there no fart until now? Zhang Feng had a headache. If he had the system, he would probably be on vacation in Hawaii. In this era, there was no system. He had to create everything by himself. This was simply torture. Moreover, he could only use the combination of earth and sea to barely create it. If he had the system, it would not be so troublesome. Zhang Feng shook his head, feeling a little displeased. This was especially so when he saw this group of people shouting and yelling here. Since that is the case, who dares to compete with me? Or should I compete with all of you? Wow. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. One person to compete with everyone? There were at least 100 talents here. He dared to compete with so many people? Where did he get the courage? Seeing this, Wu Liuji hurriedly shouted, "Okay. Since you dare, let's have a proper duel with Mr. Yushan as our witness. However, there are rules as well. Because we have heard of most of your poems, and Mr. Yushan has also heard of your poems. How about this? Let's ask Mr. Yushan to tell us the specifics of the duel." In the next moment, everyone could not help but look at Mr. Yushan. Mr. Yushan looked at Zhang Feng, then stroked his beard and said, "White Deer College had sent an invitation to Old Man to teach at White Deer College." Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. Everyone knew about Mr. Yushan and Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng had a poetry competition with Mr. Yushan at the Mid-Autumn Poetry Meet, and Mr. Yushan vomited blood and fainted. Mr. Yushan at this time? Isn't this a joke? However, Mr. Yushan's next words made everyone's hair stand on end. But at that time, Mr. Bo sure sent me Zhang Feng's complete poetry collection. It was also because of this collection that I was busy annotating it, so I didn't go there temporarily. What? Mr. Yushan, have Mr. Xianxia's complete poetry collection? Everyone was in an uproar. Zhang Feng's courtesy name was Mr. Xian, and it came from the Mid-Autumn Poetry Meet. One of Zhang Feng's poems was sold for a high price of 300,000 strings of string of cash in Jiangnan. Moreover, it was priceless. Who could remain calm when they heard that Mr. Yushan had the complete poetry collection? Mr. Yushan didn't seem to think that his words would cause such a huge uproar. He hurriedly said, "I won't give Xian's poem to anyone without his permission and before this old man has finished his annotations. This will all depend on Mr. Xian's wishes." Mr. Yushan did not forget to take a look at Zhang Feng while he was speaking. Zhang Feng touched his nose and turned to ask Wu Liuji, who was beside him with a burning face, "Mr. Wu, is Mr. Xian's poem very valuable?" "Valuable?" Wu Liuji looked at Zhang Feng with infinite disdain and said, "Vulgar." "Prince Zhang, no, Mr. Xian's poem can't be measured by such vulgar money." "Vulgar, simply vulgar. Now I believe that you are not Zhang Feng at all." Wu Liuji's words made Zhang Feng's face turn red. At this moment, most people heard his voice. They looked at Zhang Feng and could not help but look at him with disdain. When Mr. Yushan saw this, he coughed and said, "Since today's matter has come to this, why don't we use Jiangnan as the name and have everyone recite a poem? Then, everyone will decide whose poem is the best." As soon as he said that, in an instant, Wu Liuji clapped his hands in agreement. At first, he was a little afraid that Zhang Feng might be that Zhang Feng, but now that he saw Zhang Feng's face, he could not help but feel relieved. This guy was simply a fake. He was a fake. Since Mr. Yushan has said so, then I have no objection. I just don't know if this Mr. dares to. Why don't we do it this way? I'll take a step back for this dear brother. Everyone here will recite a poem, and then let this dear brother give his comments. Finally, we'll let him come up with a poem that surpasses everyone else's. This was obviously looking down on Zhang Feng. Everyone could see this, and this move seemed to be intentional. This caused Zhang Feng to be somewhat dumbfounded. Could it be played like this? Who gave him the courage to do this? Could it be that he said something that he should not have said just now? Chapter 2150. At this moment, without waiting for him to object, Wu Liuji had already begun. Since Prince Zhang didn't answer, perhaps he acquiesced. In that case, I'll make a fool of myself. The wind and rain set, the sun remembers my yearning, the small bridge and the flowing water in the shampoo. What can I do about the thousands of weeping willows on the shore? I'm yearning in the misty rain. Good. As the poem ended, in an instant, all the officials clapped their hands and cheered. Even Master Yushan nodded repeatedly. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that his cancer was acting up. Could this be called a damn poem? It was all a pile of words, but it didn't say anything. It was like someone excitedly telling you that this matter was very interesting, but after talking for at least an hour, he didn't say anything practical. And he didn't even know what was so good about this matter. Could this be called a poem? Before Zhang Feng could speak, someone else got up to write a poem. One after another. Zhang Feng listened with a big headache. Even the smile on Master Yushan's face gradually became forced. In the end, he just looked at a book in his hand expressionlessly. Instead, he was reading with great interest. But these people didn't care. They thought that Master Yushan had taken a fancy to their talent and was copying their poems. My God, this is called a poem? At this moment, at the door of the poetry house, Hao Chujun and the others were dumbfounded as they listened to the poems inside. Not to mention others, one or two poems that they casually took out would at least be much better than this, right? Were these the talents of Jiangnan? Were these the common talents of Jiangnan? At this moment, the shopkeeper who was guarding at the side seemed to have heard Hao Chujun's words. He shook his head and sighed, "This young master is not." In fact, those who can participate in the poetry house are almost all those who are eager to show off and then want to become the hangers-on of others. As for the talents, almost all of them will be the hangers-on of those big families when they become slightly famous. Why would they participate in this kind of playful situation? Hao Chujun was shocked when he heard this. He also felt relieved. Officials and literati were very proud and aloof. Weren't Lai Ji and the others the same? There was also a poetry house in Luo State City, but they refused to go there. If they went, they would have to spend money. A pot of tea and a seat would cost at least dozens of copper coins. But in their poverty, who would have that kind of money? Although their talents were outstanding, they didn't want to become someone's hanger-on. It was only when their teacher opened White Deer College that they saw hope. In comparison, this kind of thing should have happened in many places. Especially in the past few days, they had seen many poor students. Some people offered a high price to buy the white paper in their hands, but they would rather starve until they passed out than sell it. What is this? To them, this was not only a matter of face, but it was also very precious. Before the appearance of paper blank, everyone was talking about knowledge. What was there to talk about? It was about cars. For example, how many carriages of books did each family have? Who had annotated each person's novel? Xian paper was an unattainable existence for ordinary people. Most people were still using bamboo slips or tree barks to record and to go to school. It could be seen that this poetry house wasn't a place for ordinary people. You either had to be famous and let those rich families know your name, or you had to go to the school to seek help. Or you had to rely on your own efforts. As for such an extravagant poetry house competition, although everyone yearned for it, those without money could only watch. So at this moment, at the entrance of the poetry house, there was already a large number of students in robes who were eagerly listening. Then, those who heard would share the news. It was a pleasure to see how Chu Jun had thought of paying more than once to let these people in, because he knew that these people might not be able to enter even if they were poor for their whole lives. But rules were rules. He didn't dare to break them unless it was his teacher. Thinking of Zhang Feng, how Chu Jun's thoughts quickly changed. At this moment, there were already many people who had gone up. Other than the young master of the Wu family, there was the person called Shu Heng who had found fault with his teacher at the beginning. At this moment, that person seemed to have become the finale. At this moment, he pretended to be an intoxicated Mo Yen. On one hand, he closed his eyes and waved the folding fan in his hand. After a while, he slightly frowned and asked the poet where the problem was. Just like that, an hour passed. Most of the people in the field had already made poems. Even the female family members stood out to make poems. This inevitably attracted Zhang Feng's attention, especially a woman wearing a bamboo hat. Just by listening to her voice, it gave people a feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. Her poems had a similar feeling to Li Qingzhao's. In comparison, Zhang Feng believed that the so-called talents of these so-called scholars were not half as talented as this woman. Even Zhang Feng had an illusion that if not for those poems in his memory, he would probably be defeated by this woman today. At this moment, all the scholars and officials took out the poems that they felt were good. It could also be said that they had specially prepared for this poetry competition. At this moment, everyone looked at the person with the surname Lu on the high platform. At this moment, that person, under the guidance of the people beside him, then pretended to stand up. He looked around and said, "Are you all done? If so, I will embarrass myself." Chapter 2151. Zhang Feng heard this. He couldn't help but perk up. As soon as he entered the door, he heard the shopkeeper praising him. At this moment, everyone's eyes became crazy and admiring. He could tell that this person seemed to have some real ability. At this moment, not only Zhang Feng, but even Mr. Yushan also looked at the person surnamed Lu. The person surnamed Lu was somewhat of a scholar. He didn't know how talented he was, but he grasped the posture of a scholar to the peak. In Zhang Feng's memory, even Yu Shernan and the others didn't have such a big posture. The guy named Shu Heng closed his eyes and paced on the ground for a long time. Then he waved the folding fan in his hand in the wind. It seemed that he was brewing something. After a while, when Zhang Feng was a little confused by his posture and was about to doze off, the person surnamed Lu exclaimed. Instantly, a layer of goosebumps appeared all over Zhang Feng's body. On the other hand, Mr. Yushan frowned slightly at this moment. However, the scholars and women were looking at him with shining faces at this moment. It seemed that this person's posture was very attractive. This made Zhang Feng extremely speechless. The night rain in Jiangnan fell on the lotus, the jade beads fell on the emerald plate, the blue waves rocked the boat in the flower field. I'm afraid that the waves would startle a swan. After the poem was finished, the entire poetry house fell into a short silence. The person surnamed Lu seemed to have been immersed in it. He closed his eyes and made an expression of enjoyment. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel soundproof. That's it? How dare he pretend to be ignorant? Oh my god. Who the F***ck are these people? However, just when Zhang Feng couldn't help but want to say something in an instant, the entire poetry house burst into a burst of earth-shattering cheers. At this moment, the scholars and women were all cheering. How is it, Prince Zhang? What's the meaning of this poem? At this moment, the man with the surname Lu came to Zhang Feng's side and clasped his hands together. Then he looked at Zhang Feng and asked arrogantly. Zhang Feng originally didn't want to lower himself to the same level as him, but at this moment, he actually offered his face to be slapped. With Zhang Feng's bad temper, how could he be spoiled? Poem? Not bad, it's gorgeous enough. However, it's all a pile of words. Let me ask you, what is this poem trying to express? I really can't tell what you're trying to express with this poem. In the beginning, it seemed like it was expressing the loneliness of a lonely night roamer, but that's clearly not the case with the last two lines. What you're trying to express at the end is an otherworldly feeling of not wanting to disturb anyone. Zhang Feng looked at the man surnamed Lu and said with a playful smile, I think this poem was written when young Master Lu was unhappy in his life, right? But why are you behaving like this now? Zhang Feng did not finish his sentence, but everyone knew what he was trying to express. After all, everyone knew that Lu Shuheng had become a disciple of the Wu family. It was not surprising for him to behave like this now. Lu Shuheng's face turned red, but he couldn't say anything. All he could do was point at Zhang Feng for a long time. In the end, he could only ask Wu Liuji for help. Wu Liuji also scolded with an ugly expression, You surnamed Zhang, don't think you have a glib tongue. It's fine if you say my poem is a pile of words, but this poem was once affirmed by a great figure. How dare you comment on it? When Zhang Feng heard that, he immediately made a gesture of invitation. Mr. Yushan is here. Let's ask USS. Zhang Feng's exaggerated way of doing things made Wu Liuji somewhat unable to figure it out. But after all, a knife was on his neck now. He had no choice but to ask. Lu Shuheng hurriedly clasped his hands and asked, Mr. Yushan, can you give me some pointers? How could Mr. Yushan not know that this poem was fake? Presumably, the previous people didn't say it out of respect. At this time, this kid pushed this matter to him. It was really impossible to hide even if he wanted to. This poem is all right. The phrasing is very elegant. If the two meanings could be combined, it would be perfect. Buzz. This was simply like a bolt from the blue. Although Mr. Yushan didn't say it clearly, the meaning was already there. Wasn't this the same as what Zhang Feng said? At this time, Lu Shuheng and Wu Liuji couldn't hold their faces anymore. Looking at the students who were talking about it, their faces turned red. Zhang Feng, if you have the ability, you come. Who doesn't know how to talk? Come. Lu Shuheng seemed to have gone crazy. There was no longer the gentleness just now. His face was full of ferocity. Zhang Feng didn't expect this guy to fall out with him so quickly. But at this moment, looking at the whole Shizhai people, who were looking at him with dissatisfaction, he couldn't help but explode. So this truth can't be said? What kind of stupid poem is this? Damn it. This is intolerable. If that's the case, then all of you better open your ears and listen carefully. Zhang Feng was also angry. It really brought out the feeling of a tiger falling from the sky. But this was also his original intention to come here. He just didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. At the beginning, he was still thinking about how to break out of today's situation. He didn't expect it to be so simple. Chapter 2152. In fact, when Mr. Yushan said that he wanted to write a poem named Jiangnan, he had already thought about it. At this moment, Zhang Feng did not delay it. The moment he finished speaking, Yi Zichen's expression changed. He stood up and said loudly, Jiangnan can pick lotus, where the lotus leaves are, fish play between the lotus leaves, fish play between the lotus leaves in the east, fish play between the lotus leaves in the west, fish play between the lotus leaves in the south, fish play between the lotus leaves in the north. As soon as the poem was finished, almost everyone was stunned. This was called a poem? However, when everyone read it, they were shocked to find that in this simple poem, they found a problem, and that was that they could think of a picture in an instant. A picture of fish playing between the lotus leaves in a fish pond. This everyone was aghast. It seemed like a simple poem, but upon closer inspection, it gave off a refreshing and refined feeling. This poem, in an instant, Wu Liuji and Lu Shuheng were stunned. They wanted to say something, but after thinking for a long time, they could not think of any words. At this moment, Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something and said, "Oh right, this poem does not mention Jiangnan, why don't I write another one?" This poem was written by an unknown poet in the Han Dynasty. When Zhang Feng was on the mountain, he had read the ancient books and did not find this person and this poem, so he copied it. However, this was after all a poem about Jiangnan. At this moment, he was in Jiangnan, so Zhang Feng was not sure when someone knew this poem. At this moment, Zhang Feng also thought of a poem. That was by Juyi's 3 poems recalling Jiangnan. This was the most recent poem to describe Jiangnan. Jiangnan is good, the scenery is old, the sunrise is redder than fire, the spring water is green like blue, how can I not recall Jiangnan? Jiangnan recalls, the most memorable is Hangzhou, mountain temple looking for osmanthus in the moon, Junting lying on the pillow watching the tide, when will I visit again? Jiangnan recalls, the second is Wu Palace, Wu wine with a cup of spring bamboo leaves, Wu children dancing drunk hibiscus, sooner or later we will meet again. This poem was a poem that Zhang Feng felt was not bad at the moment. After all, in his memory, there were very few poems that specifically described Jiangnan. From the moment Zhang Feng started to recite the 2 poems, it took less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea. The meaning of each poem stunned everyone. The first poem might be a little shallow, but it perfectly explained the unique beauty of Jiangnan's water towns. What about the second song? Instantly, everyone had fallen into a trap. Everyone picked up a pen and paper and began to record Zhang Feng's 2 poems. At the same time, some people instantly thought of Zhang Feng's identity. Could he be that Zhang Feng? The sudden words made everyone come to their senses. That's right, if it wasn't Zhang Feng, who would be able to speak so eloquently? Who could compose such a good poem in such a short time? At this moment, Wu Liuji was stunned. Originally, he wanted to use the first poem to make a fuss, but when the second poem came out, he couldn't find any problems. At this moment, everyone finally realized the crux of the problem. Everyone thought of one thing. That is, this person must be the youngest Confucian of this generation, the dean of White Deer College. But, isn't this age a little too young? Prince Zhang, can you come up for a chat? At this moment, Mr. Yushan sighed and called out leisurely. This shout seemed to be an acknowledgement of Zhang Feng's identity, which made everyone dumbfounded. Young Master Zhang? 'Tis Mr. He Xian? Yes, if it wasn't Mr. He Xian, who would dare to impersonate someone else and deceive the provincial governor? That's right, although the provincial governor is unreliable, he has the ability to judge people. How can the provincial governor personally follow someone else? At this moment, everyone instantly knew Zhang Feng's identity and couldn't help but be in an uproar. And Zhang Feng also knew that it was impossible for him to stay here at this moment, so he hurriedly cupped his hands and greeted everyone, then went up to the 3rd floor. Sister Yu, is he really Zhang Feng? At this moment, on the 2nd floor where the women were, all the women went crazy. All of the women were infatuated with Zhang Feng's poems. Especially Zhang Feng's A Dream Writ, which caused all the women in Jiangnan to be infatuated with it. Do you know should be green fat, red thin? Last night, the rain was thin and the wind was strong, sleep did not dispel the wine. Is he really Zhang Feng? Miss Yu, say something. At this moment, Zhao Yu was surrounded by everyone, because 2 days ago, Zhang Feng had a long talk with her in the store, and everyone in the Yuezhou prefecture knew about it. This was also the reason why everyone began to doubt and feel jealous. But at this moment, Zhang Feng's identity, Mr. Yushan's vague words, and the polite invitation of Mr. Yushan and Zhang Feng, as well as the 2 poems, how could they not believe that he was Zhang Feng? Especially at this moment, Wu Man, and the other women who were surrounding Zhao Yu, their faces were full of expectation, but the more they were so, the more Zhao Yu's face turned ugly. At this moment, she stomped her feet angrily and said, "Don't ask me, ask you. She is that bastard's woman. While speaking, Zhao Yu angrily left as if she was angry. She left the crowd below to look at her. Chapter 2153. On the other side, Zhang Feng brought the three women to Mr. Yushan's guest room. The guest room was not simple. Every room here was very exquisite, especially in terms of the materials used. Almost all of them were made of the most precious sandalwood. In the room, there was a huge bookshelf that displayed the ancient books and rare books that had been collected by the poetry house since ancient times. There were even a lot of unique books. There was a huge study room and a bed in it. That was all. It seemed that this place was very thoughtful, or perhaps it was originally prepared for a great scholar. As soon as they entered the room, Mr. Yushan smiled bitterly and said, "Mr. Xian, what are you playing at?" When the old man learned that Mr. Xian had come to Jiangnan, he was still a little uncertain. Coincidentally, he was invited to the poetry house and wanted to find a few seedlings, so he came to see which daring person dared to impersonate Mr. Xian. "I didn't expect it to really be you." Zhang Feng saluted and said, "Mr. Yushan, I haven't seen you for a long time. I wonder if you are well?" After Yuer and the other two women saluted Mr. Yushan narrowed his eyes and said, "As expected of Mr. Xian. You came to Jiangnan in anger for a woman. This kind of courage is really rare." Zhang Feng laughed and said, "If I didn't have the courage of a man, then wouldn't I be the same as Mr. Yushan?" The two of them laughed loudly. Then Mr. Yushan asked, "Little Zhang, what are your plans for coming to Jiangnan this time?" "This time, I heard that people in the clan want to deal with you." Zhang Feng heard this. Although he already knew about this, and he came here to do the same thing, he was hindered by Mr. Yushan's identity. He was still thinking about how to win him over, but now that he heard Mr. Yushan tell him this in person, he still felt a little incredulous. But after thinking about it, Zhang Feng still attributed it to the appreciation between Taoist scholars. Alas! Zhang Feng sighed and took out a pack of cigarettes. He wanted to hand it to Mr. Yushan, but when he saw Mr. Yushan staring at the pack, he couldn't help but hand it to Mr. Yushan and said, "Mr. Yushan, to be honest, this time I came to Jiangnan with this plan in mind." Mr. Yushan placed Zhang Feng's cigarette case into his bosom. Then, he took out a bamboo tube and took out an old man's cigarette. He lit it on the oil lamp and began to smoke with great enjoyment. Zhang Feng's eyelids twitched. "Mr. Yushan, your cigarette?" Mr. Yushan pursed his lips and said, "About that? When I left Shao Mountain, Mr. Zihuai gave it to me. This thing is strong enough, and its effect is excellent. It's just that I don't have much left." Hearing this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but twitch his mouth. This was not courting death, this was waiting for death. The old scholar should have invited him, but he didn't agree to go to the academy. So the old scholar, "Mr. Yushan, don't smoke too much. It's not good for your health. If you like it, I'll have someone send you a fixed amount of cigarettes every month." Mr. Yushan shook his head and said with a smile, "I know what you mean. Although this thing has an excellent effect of refreshing the mind, it's harmful to the body. You said this at the beginning, and Dr. Sun also told the old man, but the old man didn't think so. Life is in a trance for only a few decades. If you don't live a little more freely, then what's the point of living?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but be silent. Mr. Yushan was right. At the beginning, he was also like this. Everything was based on his own preferences. But later, things went in the direction that he had to be busy. But did he follow his heart? Was he really happy? Zhang Feng couldn't help but envy Mr. Yushan. He clasped his fists and said nothing. Mr. Yushan was very open-minded. Seeing Zhang Feng understood, he laughed and said, "Tell me, what do you want to do in Jiangnan this time? If you want to open an academy here, I'm very much in favor of it. Do you know how many poor scholars are watching outside the study room at this moment?" Zhang Feng was stunned. Isn't this poetry house for all the officials? But the vanguard didn't believe it and opened the window of the room. In an instant, he looked out of the window and saw the sea of people outside the poetry house. There were at least 10 times more people outside than inside, and all of them were dressed in rags. They all came from poor families. At this moment, some people in clan clothes were picking and choosing in the crowd, as if they were looking for goods. Mr. Yushan said, "Now you know the reason?" Those who can enter the poetry house are basically rich people. Some people can't take a step in their whole life. It's not that they don't want to come in, but they really don't have the 10 coins. So, most of them either choose to rely on those clans, or can only wait until the imperial examination in spring. Only in this way can they have a chance. Zhang Feng was silent. He finally knew why Mr. Yushan asked him if he was going to open an academy in Jiangnan when they just met. Mr. Yushan, to be honest, a big part of the reason I came to Jiangnan this time is because of you. Chapter 2154. Teacher Yushan was taken aback. He could think of many things, but he had never imagined that Zhang Feng would come for him. But on second thought he understood. After all, he was a member of the Chui clan, and the Chui clan's plan this time was to kill Zhang Feng before he came to Jiangnan. In truth, the Ho Junji incident had also been largely their handiwork, but because Zhang Feng was in Chang and city and had Li Shimin's protection, they couldn't strike. But when they learned that Yu Qigong had summoned his little sister from Jiangnan to Chang, then they saw a sliver of a plan. And that was when they began. The 5 clans and 7 great clans began to reduce the amount of minerals and goods in the capital. But Zhang Feng was simply too capable, and he was able to come up with all sorts of fine salt that they had never seen before. This plan could be considered a stillbirth. But to their surprise, the capital was suddenly in dire need of iron. The Wang clan pondered for a long time before finally figuring out the crux of the problem. It was definitely because of Zhang Feng. This brat had never played by the rules, especially after he established the academy. Everything he did was absurd. And this sudden shortage of iron in Chang and might have been Zhang Feng's doing. Thus, the 5 clans and 7 great clans came up with a plan. It was to lure Zhang Feng to Jiangnan, and the most advantageous condition was Yu Qiyu. To their surprise, this brat really did come before the new year. However, Mr. Yushan had never been ashamed of such matters. He would not participate, nor did he want to participate. The reason why he had participated in this matter during the Mid-Autumn Poetry Meet was entirely because he was angry. How could a 20-something-year-old brat be worthy of the title of great scholar? Wasn't this an insult to the ancestors? Wasn't this an insult to sage Confucius? But once he truly understood Zhang Feng, he realized that this brat was truly frightening. This was especially true for his academy. At the start, he and everyone else had believed that this was just a game between the retired emperor and crown prince Li Chengqian. Otherwise, why would the crown prince be in charge and the retired emperor be the honorary vice principal? Wasn't this a joke? However, when White Deer College's final exams ended, Suyu finally realized how terrifying White Deer College was. An academy with thousands of students was unprecedented in history. However, such an academy actually had the magnificent feat of having at least 3,000 people pass the examination. This also meant that the Tang dynasty would be filled with talents in a short period of time. It was also at this time that Mr. Yushan's opinion of Zhang Feng and White Deer College changed. As teachers, didn't they want the Tao of saints to blossom everywhere? In the beginning, Mr. Yushan had asked Zhang Feng when he was going to open an academy in Jiangnan. That was all he cared about. He never cared about politics. Hearing Zhang Feng's words, Mr. Yushan sighed and shook his head. Brat, you shouldn't have come to Jiangnan. As he spoke, Mr. Yushan glanced at the 3 ladies behind him and shook his head again. Ladies, please excuse me. I have some matters to attend to. Mr. Yushan, please speak your mind. They are the most important people to me, Zhang Feng. Of course, I don't want to hide my matters from them. Zhang Feng interrupted Mr. Yushan. Mr. Yushan was stunned. At this moment he finally understood why the 3 women would follow him so loyally, and why the people around Zhang Feng would follow him so loyally. He was too ambitious. In the Tang dynasty, women had almost no status. Almost all important matters were discussed, and women were dismissed. Even if it was a small peasant, it was the same. However, it was different for Zhang Feng. After all, he had experienced the 21st century where everyone was equal. He was really disgusted with this. However, for the people of the Tang dynasty, this was a reform and innovation. Seeing this, Mr. Yushan didn't say anything more. He said bluntly, I know that you came to Jiangnan this time. And the people of the 7 clans and Guanlong all know that you came to deal with the 7 clans, right? Zhang Feng nodded in surprise. Yes, but my purpose shouldn't be so obvious, right? Speaking of this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Could it be that someone had leaked Lao Tzu's plan? Your plan is very good. You didn't leak it, but your purpose is too obvious. Anyone who knows you a little will know that you are too lazy. If there is nothing, you will never put yourself in danger. Although you came to Jiangnan this time for Miss Yu on the surface, and your purpose is also for you, you have other purposes. Do you know how many people are waiting for you to leave Chang'an? Zhang Feng was silent. In the beginning, he really didn't think so much. He also didn't think from the point of view of others, especially from the point of view of the 5 clans and 7 clans. However, at this moment, through Mr. Yushan's mouth, he suddenly realized that dealing with the 5 clans and 7 clans this time seemed to be more difficult than he had imagined. Chapter 2155. This also explained why he had encountered the Gao family's obstruction as soon as he had arrived in Jiangnan. It was clearly just a small matter. Part of it was because he was pursuing Yu and was afraid that he would come to Jiangnan. However, at that time, he didn't know that he was Zhang Feng. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have been so hostile. However, at this moment, Zhang Feng calmly thought about it again under Mr. Yushan's reminder. Suddenly, he thought of many things, especially in this era. This era was the most prosperous era of feudalism and slavery in the history of China. It was also the era when all kinds of clans and aristocrats were at their peak. The lives of ordinary people were worse than pigs and dogs in the hands of these clans. In this era, what could people like them do to potential threats? The laws of this era were almost useless against them. In other words, what the Gao family had done to him before was already considered polite. Mr. Yushan, since you've said so much, I'll also show you my trump card. Zhang Feng lit a cigarette and glanced at Yu. Then he said, my biggest goal in coming to Jiangnan this time is to use the Yu family and the connections I can make to break the control of the 5 clans and 7 kings. You also know that almost all of my salt mines in Chang'an come from real wax. The distance from Lidao to Chang'an is only half of the distance from real wax to here. Therefore, I want to make salt here. Also, I want to make use of Jiangnan's developed water resources. This is the most important thing. What silk and paper need is this huge water resource. There's also the rubber in Lingnan as well as my rubber factory and iron mine. Mr. Yushan was so shocked by Zhang Feng's words that his mouth was wide open. He had originally thought that Zhang Feng had come to Jiangnan this time to start an all-out war with the 5 clans and 7 kings. If that was the case, then Zhang Feng, Li Shimin behind him, and the entire Tang dynasty would collapse. However, he hadn't expected Zhang Feng's ambition to be like this. He wanted to use business to completely replace the 5 clans and 7 kings' control in Jiangnan. In this way, he only needed paper and textile factories to completely collapse the business in Jiangnan. Not to mention the rest. If Zhang Feng really wanted to move all these things to Jiangnan, then he didn't dare to think about it. After all, he was just a person who focused on his studies. After an hour, Zhang Feng explained his plan. Yu Qiyu tried to interrupt Zhang Feng a few times, but was rejected by Zhang Feng. From his point of view, the fact that Mr. Yushan was able to say such a thing meant that Mr. Yushan's position was very clear. However, even so, Zhang Feng couldn't help but ask curiously, Mr. Yushan, you're a member of the Cui family. You shouldn't be telling me such things. Why are you telling me? Mr. Yushan was silent for a long time. After a long time, Mr. Yushan said, actually, I despise these things. If you really wanted to completely break off relations with the 5 clans and 7 kings and were prepared to use force, then old man would fight to the death to keep you here. However, you chose a different path. Mr. Yushan chuckled. You saw it yourself. After the turmoil of the late Sui dynasty, the common people urgently need a peaceful life. They don't care who's in charge, they only care about who can feed them. This is the common people. You also know how deep the foundations of the 5 clans and 7 kings are. If we really break off relations with them, then everyone in the Tang dynasty will be involved. This won't be good for anyone. For the sake of the common people, old man has no choice but to be the bad guy. Even if it can bring some peace to the common people, he won't hesitate. Zhang Feng was silent. At this moment he finally understood what the old keeper meant. He wasn't on his side. It could be said that he was completely on the side of the common people. However, he was such a simple person. What right did he have to blame him? Zhang Feng was silent. After a while, Zhang Feng said, "Actually, I really did think about opening White Deer College in Jiangnan. But you also know that I can't stay idle. That's why you want me to teach and educate people. I'm really worried that I won't hold up these children. So, Mr. Yushan, since you're able to come here, and you even told me about those poor students outside, I presume Mr. Yushan is extremely supportive of me establishing White Deer Academy here, right?" Mr. Yushan couldn't help but be on guard. "Kid, let me say this first. It's not easy to get old man to come to White Deer College." Zhang Feng's eyes lit up. "Since you've said it, then I'll just do as you say." Mr. Yushan couldn't help but smile. "Kid, I heard that at White Deer College, Yushernan and the others eat braised meat every day. There's also good wine. I can't miss any of these. Also, old man needs 50 pounds of paper every month." "Ooh, are you eating paper?" Chapter 2156. Zhang Feng was stunned. He smiled bitterly. Mr. Yushan did not care about Zhang Feng. Instead, he said, "Do you know how many people have been harmed by your paper? How many people are cursing you? It's all because of your paper. How many years has it been since the old man's work had to be copied all over again? Tell me, is 50 pounds of paper a lot every month?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly nodded. "Not a lot, not a lot. But if Mr. can move all these works to the academy and let the students copy them together, wouldn't it be faster?" How could Mr. Yushan not know about Zhang Feng's wicked idea? He glanced at Zhang Feng and said, "Don't think so much. The old man's collection will not be as foolish as Mr. Bo Shi and the others, who will steal it all away." "All right, when do you plan to start the academy?" Seeing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly complained. "Mister, you also know that I am not a person who educates people. It's easy to start the academy. If I really want to, I can start teaching before next year's spring examinations. But I don't have the manpower. Don't try this on the old man. There are thousands of people in Chang and White Deer College. Can't you find some people? I heard that you have a few outstanding disciples. The old man likes these people. Later, call them over for the old man. The old man will specially recruit them as his last disciples." Zhang Feng's eyelids twitched. He quickly bid farewell to Mr. Yushan and hurriedly left. What a joke! If he stayed any longer, his underwear would be taken away. Ma Zhou and the others were talents. Otherwise, why would he take them as his last disciples? He was not idle. The most important thing was that he had already dragged Mr. Yushan into this. Then he did not have to worry about the academy. Now was not the time to discuss the details. He could only wait for the students outside to settle down and then invite Mr. Yushan to his house to discuss the specific steps in detail. In short, now that he had agreed to start the academy, it meant that he would not leave Yuezhou in a short time. He had plenty of time. As soon as he left the room, Zhang Feng was instantly drowned out by the noise outside. At some point, the people outside were also let in by the shopkeeper. Everyone knew that great scholar Xian was here. And Shizhai could also make a name for itself. That was why he let these people in. Zhang Feng understood these things after thinking about it for a while. This was also a business method. As soon as he went out, Hao Chujun, Gao Kan, and Jia Daoren stood at the door. Seeing Zhang Feng and the others come out, he hurriedly asked, "Principal, should we retreat?" "No need. This was the time to make a name for himself. Why did he have to leave?" Everyone. Zhang Feng simply stood by the fence and gestured. Even so, it took a long time for these agitated officials to calm down. At this moment, Zhang Feng said, "I didn't want to meet you today in this way. The reason why I came here is to see how the officials of Jiangnan, known as the Tang dynasty, are doing. Now it seems that all of you are doing well. Teacher Xian, I heard that you are coming to Jiangnan to start the academy?" At this moment, someone excitedly interrupted Zhang Feng. Seeing that someone was so sensible, Zhang Feng nodded and replied, Indeed, I was discussing this with Teacher Yushan in his room just now. Hearing this, everyone was in an uproar. It was nothing to those rich people, but for those poor students, being able to enter White Deer College was their only way. It was also their only chance to reach the heavens in one step. Because White Deer College claimed that as long as one could successfully graduate, one could hold a position in the imperial court. To everyone, this was a huge temptation. Furthermore, not only did White Deer College not require money, but if one performed well, they could even earn a certain amount of money every month. It was said that the amount of money they could earn in a month was more than what an outsider could earn in a year. To those poor commoners, this was like a pie falling from the sky. Furthermore, it was said that as long as one's studies were good at White Deer College, there would be some sort of bonus. There would be exams every month, and as long as one scored well, there would be rewards. Not only the poor students, but even the children of the rich wanted to enter White Deer College. At this moment, when all the students heard that Zhang Feng was really going to start the academy, they were in an uproar. Everyone was so excited that they were trembling. To them, this was more exciting than the Chinese New Year. However, this was not necessarily the case for those rich families at the entrance. They knew about the grudges between Zhang Feng and the 5 families and 7 major families. Seeing Zhang Feng like this, they could not help but weigh the pros and cons in their hearts. After all, Teacher Yushan was from the Cui family. They did not know what Zhang Feng and Teacher Yushan were talking about in that room. They did not know what the 5 families and 7 major families were planning. At this moment, they could only look at Zhang Feng and the excited students with complicated feelings. At this moment, Zhang Feng cupped his hands and said, "Oh right, today is the opening of Chang, an hotel in Yuezhou Prefecture. If you like it, you can try it out. If you have any problems in the future, you can look for me there. I still have some matters to attend to today, so I'll take my leave first." As he spoke, Zhang Feng was about to leave, but when he went downstairs, he was blocked by Zhao Yu and the rest. "Prince Zhang, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Shouldn't we have a chat?" Chapter 2157. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded when he saw that it was a group of women who were among the top 10 in Jiangnan who blocked his way. He didn't know what to do. But what could he do? He could only follow the women to where the women were. At this moment, there were maids standing on the side biting their lips. However, Zhang Feng's reputation was too great, so they didn't dare to say anything. Although this was a place where men were forbidden, they found a quiet place to sit down. Then, Zhao Yu stared at Zhang Feng and the others, sizing them up from head to toe. She even stretched her neck and sniffed them hard. "Ahem. Miss Yu, behave yourself." Zhang Feng's cheeks were a little hot under the stares of the women. He coughed hurriedly. The women didn't care. But Yuqiu couldn't sit still. She looked at the women and asked elegantly, "Sister, you must be the Zhao family's number 1. Miss Yu in Jiangnan, right?" Hearing that, Zhao Yu was instantly alert. "Miss Yu, you really live up to your reputation. No wonder Prince Zhang is so infatuated with you." Even though they had met once before, they had never seen each other before. But that was at a poetry meet in Hangzhou Prefecture. No, it was at this year's Mid-Autumn Poetry Meet. At that time, Yuqiu's brilliance overshadowed everyone else. This time was no exception. Zhao Yu couldn't help but compare with her. She wanted to see where she was inferior. She almost said something wrong just now. Fortunately, at the last moment, she remembered her family's advice and reacted. Yuqiu frowned slightly and glanced at Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng immediately raised his hand to show his weakness. What a joke! He and Zhao Yu were really innocent. If something happened at this time, they would die. Zhang Feng hurriedly said, "Miss Zhao, we still have something to do. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave now." Seeing that Zhang Feng was not joking, Zhao Yu hurriedly said, "Prince Zhang, why are you so fragrant today? Did she use some kind of perfume sachet? Why haven't I seen Prince Zhang use it before? Or could it be that you specially prepared something for the sake of meeting Big Sister Yu today? Zhang Feng really didn't expect you to appear today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sprayed perfume in advance, although he knew that you wasn't a snob. However, Now that he heard what they said, Zhang Feng decided to lay his cards on the table. I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm going to lay all my cards on the table. This is a new perfume that I've spent months researching. While speaking, Zhang Feng took out a special transparent glass bottle and said, "This thing is what I made. It's called perfume." As he spoke, Zhang Feng slowly raised the bottle of perfume. In an instant, everyone's eyes were fixed on the bottle. To them, the bottle was the most precious item, especially the fact that it was transparent. In this era, there wasn't a single item that could do that. The bottle was only as thick as a thumb, but at this moment, it was filled with a golden liquid. As Zhang Feng's arm swayed, the fragrance of a flower's stamen instantly wafted through the entire room. At this moment, even Wuxia's eyes were attracted. She quickly took out the small bottle that Zhang Feng gave her just now. She didn't have time to look at it just now. Now that she took it out and looked at it, she realized that it was a blood-red liquid. The fragrance in it was at least 10 times stronger than the perfume in Zhang Feng's hand at this moment. Everyone was dumbfounded, aghast. Looking at the perfume in Zhang Feng and Wuxia's hands, everyone's brain went blank. Did Prince Zhang just give this to you? This is called perfume? Prince Zhang, he said this is called perfume? Zhang Feng nodded and looked at Wu Man, who was seeking his opinion. He nodded and handed the perfume to her, saying, "Yes, this is perfume. I once spent a lot of time and used hundreds of kinds of flowers and spices to finally get this small bottle. But don't underestimate this small bottle of perfume. It maximizes the fragrance of flowers countless times, and that's how this perfume came about. Moreover, as long as a drop of this perfume is applied to the body, it will make the whole body emit a fragrance that lasts for a whole day. And as time passes, the fragrance of flowers will also change with time. For example, the perfume that I'm spraying now smells of citrus and tulips at first, but after 2 to 4 hours, it will become the fragrance of roses, white lotus, and lily of the valley. At night, it will become the fragrance of sandalwood, yellow sunflower, and ambergris. This perfume has a total of 3 flavors, and each flavor will last for 6 hours. Under Zhang Feng's introduction, Wu Man's face turned red. Wu Man's face couldn't help but redden slightly. The dozens of women present, as well as those attracted by the fragrance, all looked at the bottle of perfume in Wu Man's hand with burning eyes. Seeing this, Zhang Feng smiled and said, "Miss Wu, why don't I help you apply a little?" Wu Man's mind was full of the fragrance that Zhang Feng said, and she nodded subconsciously. But suddenly, 4 female voices sounded at the same time. Chapter 2158. Zhang Feng was startled by this sharp voice and almost dropped the perfume bottle in his hand. At this moment, Zhang Feng was also dumbfounded. He looked at Zhao Yu, who had just stopped him, and asked, "Miss Zhao, what's wrong with you?" Zhao Yu blushed and stammered for a long time before saying, "I still don't know what you put in it. Miss Wu, you can't test it blindly. Why don't I do it and you help me apply it? If anything happens..." Zhang Feng heard this and rolled his eyes and simply put away the perfume. This time, Zhao Yu was instantly enraged. She bared her teeth and wanted to bite Zhang Feng. Zhang Yuyao couldn't stand it anymore and hurriedly took the perfume from Zhang Feng's hand and said, "Miss Zhao, let me help you. This is how to use it." As she spoke, Zhang Yuyao was drowned in a group of women. Zhang Feng, Jia Daoren, and the others' eyes reddened. They regretted not going up just now. "Ahem, okay, all of you go out. This place is not suitable for you." Zhang Feng pretended to be gentle and drove Jia Daoren, Hao Chujun, and the others away. When Zhang Feng turned around, he saw many pairs of eyes looking at him. Seeing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly touched his nose and said, "Well, I'll wait outside." "All right, you hide the bottle in your hand. Just that one bottle." After saying this, Zhang Feng could only leave with his tail between his legs. Zhang Feng wanted to slap himself as soon as he went out. What a good opportunity. Damn it. As soon as he went out, Zhang Feng was blocked by people. The people who came were the officials downstairs. Everyone was now focused on Zhang Feng's poem. Although at the beginning, they were puzzled as to why Zhang Feng's body was so fragrant, under the temptation of the poem, no one asked about it. As soon as he went out, Zhang Feng was dragged to the hall on the first floor by the crowd. At this moment, in the hall, everyone had removed all the tables and chairs, leaving only a table and a stool in the middle. Mr. Xian, are you really Mr. Xian? At this moment, everyone felt as if they were living in a dream. They could not believe that Zhang Feng had really appeared in front of them. There were too many people asking questions. There were so many that Zhang Feng didn't even know where to begin. Just as Zhang Feng was having a headache, Zhang Feng spoke. Everyone, I know that all of you are very excited, but please rest assured that White Deer College will open for business before next year's spring exams. I, Zhang Feng, am a man of my word. Hearing this, all the students were in an uproar. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, Of course, before this, if you have any questions, you can find me at my restaurant. At that time, I will let my student, Hao Chujun, personally answer your questions. Hao Chujun, come, I will leave this place to you. Master still has some matters to attend to, so I will leave first. As Zhang Feng spoke, he slipped away, leaving behind a dumbfounded Hao Chujun. Seeing so many people, Hao Chujun felt numb all over. When he was in the academy, he did teach new juniors, but that was in the academy. Moreover, there were only 10 to 20 people in a class, and there were textbooks. But what did they have here? Looking at the hundreds of people, Hao Chujun wanted to cry. Zhang Feng had just slipped to the door, lit a cigarette, and was thinking about where to go tonight. However, at this moment, the shopkeeper of the poetry house bowed and stood in front of Zhang Feng. Prince Zhang, Mr. Xian? Zhang Feng was shocked and hurriedly asked, Shopkeeper, what's the matter? Seeing the shopkeeper's face, Zhang Feng's first thought was that the shopkeeper must have something to ask of him. Sure enough, as Zhang Feng thought, the shopkeeper said, Prince Zhang, I have a presumptuous request. Of course, for Prince Zhang, this is just a matter of moving your fingers. I wonder if Prince Zhang can do me the honor? Hearing this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but grin. I wonder what the shopkeeper is talking about? But I have some matters to attend to now, so I hope. At this moment, the shopkeeper waved his hand, and in an instant, a servant came up with a tray. The tray was covered with a red cloth, and it was unknown what was on it. The shopkeeper lifted the red cloth, and a roll of reddish-brown bamboo slips appeared in Zhang Feng's line of sight. This is a handwritten scroll from the Han Dynasty. It is a capital stock, and it is also the treasure of our poetry house. Today, Prince Zhang can come to our poetry house, and it really brings light to our humble dwelling. This poems of the 6 dynasties of Han and Wei was obtained by chance. Today, I will give it to Prince Zhang. Zhang Feng was surprised. Poems of the 6 dynasties of Han and Wei? This was a good thing. In the 21st century, there were only some fragments of this thing, or some fragments collected in some ancient tombs. But he didn't expect that he would be able to obtain this treasure by coming to this small and nameless study house. Presumably, there should be a lot of treasures here, right? Zhang Feng couldn't help but have a bold idea. Zhang Feng laughed, took the bamboo slips from the servant's hand, and carelessly stuffed them in front of his chest. He said, Shopkeeper, you are too polite. If there's anything you want, there's no harm in saying it. As long as I, Zhang Feng, can do it, I will do my best. Chapter 2159. Zhang Feng's attitude almost made the shopkeeper fall to the ground. But this was also good. After all, this would save him unnecessary trouble. After all, people like them were too proud. If they were not willing to do such things, who could force them? But this was different for the poetry club. How many great Confucian scholars had visited this place and left behind their personal messages? To them, this was their reputation. It was also where every poetry club competed. And this time, Mr. Yushan's arrival was unexpected. Moreover, Mr. Yushan's reputation was too great. He hated their behavior the most, so they did not dare to do it. But Zhang Feng was different. It seemed that Zhang Feng was here for the first time, and he should be easy to talk to. So she decided to give it a try. But seeing Zhang Feng agree at this time, the shopkeeper was dumbfounded. He did not know what to write for Zhang Feng. But the servant was quick-witted and hurriedly said, Shopkeeper, President Zhang is known as the goddess of poetry. Why don't you let Prince Zhang write a poem for our poetry club? With that said, the shopkeeper suddenly understood and said, Prince Zhang, you see, sure. Zhang Feng agreed decisively. Then the shopkeeper was overjoyed and hurriedly sent someone to find a pen and paper. Zhang Feng was also thinking about what kind of poem to write. After all, this place could become an important place in the future. Fame. After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng suddenly thought of Li Qingzhao's poem. Then after thinking for a while, he picked up the pen and wrote, Slow song, searches and searches, cold and cheerless, miserable and sorrowful. When it's warm and cold, it's the most difficult to rest. How can 3 or 2 cups of light wine compete with him? The late wind rushes. When the wild goose passes by, it's sad. How can a word of worry suffice? The poem was finished. Unknowingly, Zhang Feng was surrounded by students. And these people also excitedly recited after every line of Zhang Feng's poem. Zhang Feng did not disturb them. Instead, after writing this poem, he quietly left. He didn't even know that Mr. Yushan had appeared on the first floor. As soon as Zhang Feng left, the entire poetry house exploded in an instant. Everyone looked at Zhang Feng's new work in shock. Some people had tears in their eyes, some were wailing, and some were even drunk on it, not knowing what to do. Especially Wu Liuji and Lu Shuheng. At this moment, the 2 of them wanted to leave, but they were unwilling to do so. If they didn't leave, their faces wouldn't be able to bear it. But after seeing Zhang Feng's poem, they were engrossed in it again. Even the women on the second floor stopped fighting for the perfume and came to the first floor to see Zhang Feng's latest poem. However, the problem was that everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Zhang Feng's handwriting. Zhang Feng's poem was one of a kind, but his handwriting was too ugly. But even so, everyone was still fighting to copy Zhang Feng's poem. They were even copying Zhang Feng's handwriting. In their opinion, perhaps it was because of this that Zhang Feng could create such a beautiful poem. And the shopkeeper was laughing so hard that he couldn't even hide his teeth. At the same time, he held the poem in his arms. But there were many people here that he couldn't afford to offend. He could only hold it in his arms and let them observe. In the end, it was Mr. Yushan who showed his prowess. He took a huge amount of rice paper and started to rewrite it with a giant brush in the middle of the poetry house. A moment later, a newly framed, slow song, with a width of 2 feet and a length of 5 feet was hung in the most important and conspicuous position in the poetry house. And almost everyone in the poetry house participated in it. At this moment, everyone looked at the poem that Zhang Feng had just created. They couldn't help but feel a sense of heroism. Shopkeeper, can you part with Prince Zhang's original manuscript to the Wu family? If you can, the Wu family will owe you a big favor. And the Wu family will give you a satisfactory price. At this moment, Wu Maner suddenly spoke. Instantly, everyone was aghast. The Wu family actually took a fancy to this poem? Even Wu Liuji was stunned at this moment. He looked at Wu Maner in disbelief. Although he was old enough to be Wu Maner's brother, but Wu Maner's position in the Wu family, but because Wu Maner's reputation had been expanding these few years, Wu Maner had become the apple of the Wu family's eye. At this moment, her words could be considered as the words of the patriarch of the Wu family. Hearing that, those who were on equal footing with the Wu family also started to have thoughts. Shopkeeper, the Gao family is willing to buy it. The Zhao family is also willing to buy it. The Wu family is also willing to buy it at a high price. The Tang family, the Yang family. At this moment, just when the shopkeeper's face was in a dilemma, Mr. Yushan coldly interrupted everyone's imagination. Although this piece of calligraphy was given to Shizhai by Xian, it still belongs to Xian. Without Xian's permission, no one is allowed to touch this piece of calligraphy. Poetry is meant to teach people to be humble. How can it be measured by money? With this, everyone instantly quieted down. Everyone was silent. Chapter 2160. The scenery of Jiangnan at night wasn't as good as it was said to be. There was only darkness. Although it was already the end of the year, the weather in Jiangnan was still as warm as spring. However, one could still feel a trace of coolness at night. In the new house, Zhang Feng's group of 4 sat around the stove, eating mutton hot pot and drinking wine that they had brought from Chang. It was said to be a royal gift. However, the atmosphere was particularly awkward. In the end, it was Zhang Yuyao who broke the silence and asked, "Sister Yu, I heard that the Gao family wanted to marry you. What happened in the end?" "I heard from Prince Zhang that the people he sent were intercepted halfway while delivering the message." "What happened?" Hearing this, silently glanced at Zhang Feng and said, "The situation at that time was indeed very dangerous. Fortunately, Lao Li's caravan from the capital passed by and stopped them. Otherwise, what happened in the end?" asked Zhang Feng with a slight frown. "Later, it was Lao Li's people who helped us that the Gao family didn't make things difficult for our Yu family. However, it wasn't good either. After this incident, almost all of our businesses were affected. However, our Yu family is also on guard against the Gao family. Recently, the Gao family seems to be brewing something. You'd better pay attention. Also, the perfume you used today, what are you trying to do?" Zhang Feng didn't answer her. Instead, he asked, I heard from Yu Suqian that most of the Yu family's businesses have been affected because of our matter. How much has it been affected?" Yu Qiyu was stunned. Her face slightly reddened as she said, "Almost all of them have been affected. Now, many families are taking the opportunity to encroach on our Yu family's businesses." Yu Qiyu calmly told him everything that had happened to the Yu family. Zhang Feng nodded and said, "Can you call the shots in the Yu family now?" This, Yu Qiyu was stunned. She didn't know what Zhang Feng wanted to do. However, Zhang Feng knew what was going on when he saw her expression, so he said, Didn't you just ask me about the perfume? The perfume is my gift to you. This is the first time I've made it. I just finished it last night. The reason why I brought it today is to let everyone know about it. At least in the high-end market, people will notice it. Then, do you know what to do?" Yu Qiyu's eyes flickered as she asked, "This is too precious. I can't accept it." Of course, she knew how precious this thing was. Although many people didn't understand this thing and only felt that it was very fragrant and pleasant to the nose, one had to know that this transparent glass bottle's production cost far exceeded 100 strings of coins, not to mention the perfume inside. This thing wasn't as simple as a perfume. What Yu Qiyu saw was a sea of scheming and scheming. She even saw the palace and the harem further away. If this thing was really made, it would definitely be an extremely unstable thing. In fact, the dangers and benefits of this thing all came from one thing, and that was temptation. This perfume was too fragrant, so fragrant that it made people unable to extricate themselves. Originally, this shouldn't be a sin. There was nothing wrong with this thing, but it was the human heart that was at fault. Humans were always greedy. Everyone would lose their rationality in an instant when faced with huge benefits, especially women. In this era, almost every man had 3 wives and 4 concubines, and wars between women were always going on. This was unavoidable for every woman. However, at this moment, Zhang Feng's perfume would drive almost all women crazy. Yu Qiyu didn't know why Zhang Feng took this thing out, but she definitely knew its value. This thing's value was comparable to 10,000 taels of gold. Seeing Yu Qiyu hesitating, Zhang Feng smiled and said, "Actually, this thing was prepared for you from the beginning. The bottle in your hand is called Soul Captivating, and the bottle in the poetry house today is called Soul Captivating. The reason why I took it out today is to wait for them to bring the perfume matter back home. Even if they don't talk about the fragrance on their bodies, someone will naturally ask about it. In this way, won't our business be done?" I know what you're worried about, but this is just a business, and a profitable one at that. But, Brother Feng, this thing is really too valuable. I can't accept it." Yu Qiyu still shook her head and refused. She was worried about the Yu family. No matter what happened to Zhang Feng this time, he would eventually return to Chang. However, once Zhang Feng returned to Chang, and what would happen to the Yu family? They might really go to heaven or hell at a whim. Jing Shu smiled and pressed one hand on Yu Qiyu's hand. She smiled and said, "Sister Yu, perhaps you still don't know Zhang, Brother Feng's purpose this time? It's very likely that we won't have to return to Chang, and after coming to Jiangnan this time. Moreover, Brother Feng has already realized everything that you're worried about. The reason why he came alone this time is to completely destroy the 5 families and 7 hopes. And this perfume is just a stepping stone. Chapter 2161. Zhang Feng's plan was very simple. It was to use the perfume and a batch of items he had prepared to open an auction and invite partners in Jiangnan. This way, these people would definitely fight over it. But who was Zhang Feng? In the past few days, Zhang Feng had also secretly pulled in some partners. As for the bidding at that time, Zhang Feng only needed to slightly move his hands and feet, and this would cause a rift between these clans that originally looked calm. Then he would openly use all kinds of violent means to suck money. At the end of the year, he would frantically sweep away the entire cash reserves of Jiangnan. In this way, when the next spring plowing, when Chang An's phosphate fertilizer factory opened in Jiangnan, and pig farming technology was popularized in Jiangnan. Once wheat and other crop purification methods were launched in Jiangnan, then these rich clans would instantly find that their pockets were empty. This was Zhang Feng's real plan. And this plan could only be said at this moment when the 4 of them were present. Otherwise, even if it was Hao Chujun and the others, Zhang Feng would never say a word. He wouldn't even say it to Yu Suqian. Because once this news was leaked, it was estimated that Zhang Feng's life would come to an end. After all, the Gao family's matter was not over yet, and Zhang Feng knew that this person's revenge had never been reduced. Even today, he didn't see Gao Ming and Yu Suqian in the poetry house. This was absolutely abnormal. Yu Suqian could understand that Gao Ming must have gone to deal with something. However, it didn't make sense that Gao Ming didn't appear. For this kind of high-end gathering, it was understandable if one person was missing. After all, before the start of the poetry contest, Zhang Feng gave Yu Suqian a chance. At this moment, Yu Suqian should be preparing for the white paper business. However, Gao Ming didn't appear for 2 days in a row, and there wasn't even a single person looking for trouble. This was absolutely abnormal. This guy wasn't a good person. He would never be so kind. That also meant that he was brewing something big. At this moment, Zhang Feng told Yu Qiyu about the matter from beginning to end. Yu Qiyu's face couldn't help but become dignified. Although she was just a woman, she still knew a little about business. In particular, when the Yu family had shown weakness in the past, she had also directly participated in the Yu family's business for the sake of the Yu family's business. However, it was precisely because of this that she understood the business of warehouses. The more she understood, the more she felt that Zhang Feng was crazy. She didn't know what other motives Zhang Feng had, but the fact that he was an enemy of the 5 surnames and 7 clans made her feel suffocated. Could he really go against the people of the 5 families and 7 clans? Without the help of the emperor and the others? Brother Feng, actually, I think we should put this perfume matter aside for a while. We should start in a small circle. What do you think? Yu Qiyu was still not at ease. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, she spoke of her plan. However, Zhang Feng shook his head and said, "There's no time. After this perfume appeared today, you just have to wait and see. At the latest, there will be countless people coming to our door tomorrow night." Yu Qiyu was shocked. "Are you sure?" Zhang Feng smiled but said nothing. He knew perfume too well. To be more precise, he knew human nature too well. Jealousy, the problem of face, and hatred of the rich were not only present in the later generations. On the contrary, they were even more active in the Tang dynasty. It was also because of this that once the perfume appeared today, it could no longer be hidden. That fragrance was not only enough to mesmerize everyone, but it would also become the object of everyone's comparison. This thing had been a position of luxury goods since ancient times. It was the same everywhere. Seeing that Zhang Feng was so certain, Yu Qiyu didn't say anything more. After the meal, each of them had their own thoughts. Jing Shu could drag Zhang Yuyao and say that they were admiring the moon. She could drag Zhang Yuyao into her dormitory and refuse to come out even if she was beaten to death. Zhang Feng couldn't help but look at the dark sky in confusion. Where did the F*King moon come from at this time? He also knew that Jing Shu was creating an opportunity for him. How could Zhang Feng not know? At this moment, only the 2 of them were left in the room. Zhang Feng and Yu Qiyu's breathing became more and more rapid. They increasingly didn't dare to look at each other. Cough cough. Maybe I drank too much tonight. It's a little hot. Zhang Feng didn't know what to say, so he could only talk nonsense. Yuqiu glanced at Zhang Feng, feeling both angry and amused. She said, "Then rest early." Chapter 2162. Yuqiu was really too beautiful. Otherwise, she wouldn't be the first of the top 10 beauties in Jiangnan. Especially her eyes. Even Zhang Feng, who was used to seeing all kinds of beauties in the 21st century, felt his heart beat faster every time he saw Yuqiu. Just like that, a night passed. The next morning, Zhang Feng was woken up by hurried knocks on the door. Looking to his side, he saw Yuqiu lying motionlessly in his arms with a pale face. Zhang Feng quietly adjusted the quilt for her and then went out of the room. As soon as he went out, Jia Daoren glanced inside. Zhang Feng hurriedly stopped him and said, "It's so early in the morning, what's wrong?" "Master, it's already noon. That kid from the Yu family is going to explode outside. Oh right, there's also that crazy girl from the Zhao family. This time, she directly brought more than 10 noble ladies and the first miss of the Wu family. You go and see for yourself. The first madam and the second madam are somewhat overwhelmed." Hearing that, Zhang Feng was shocked. He was too greedy last night, otherwise he wouldn't have slept until this time. With the help of Jia Daoren, he hurriedly put on his clothes and went to the front hall. As soon as he entered, everyone in the front hall stood up together. "Prince Zhang." Zhang Feng coughed and said, "I was reading in the study and forgot the time. I hope you won't punish me. Please sit down. You clearly said that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Don't think I don't know." Zhang Feng staggered and almost fell to the ground because of Zhao Yu's whisper. He hurriedly smiled awkwardly and said with a serious face, "Cough, cough, am I that kind of person?" Okay, Prince Zhang, we came here today because we have something important to discuss." Wu Man speechlessly pulled Zhao Yu and then looked at Zhang Feng with a strange expression. In an instant, Wu Man pointed at the several women and said, "This is the second wife of the Wu family, and also my mother." Zhang Feng looked at Wu Man-er's side with some surprise. She was a beautiful woman in her early 30s. His eyes lit up, and he hurriedly stepped forward to greet her. It was not hard to tell that she should be Wu Man-er's mother. Because of her daughter's identity, her status in the Wu family had also risen. Otherwise, a Hu person's status in these families was even lower than a maid's. Fortunately, Wu Man-er's beauty and talent were astonishing. This allowed the Wu family to see the value of her existence. That was why she had the status she had today. Wu Man pointed to a beautiful woman around the same age who was talking to Zhao Ru in a low voice and said, "This is the Zhao family's matriarch, and also Zhao Yu and Zhao Ru's mother." Zhang Feng hurriedly bowed. Then Wu Man introduced the other women in the mansion. Almost all of these women, except for the matriarch of the Zhao family, were not well liked. It was no wonder that these people came to visit the mansion as soon as they knew about this matter. After meeting each other, Jing Shu asked faintly, "These madams came to the mansion because of yesterday's perfume matter. Brother Feng, you can discuss the details. Sister Yuyao and I will leave first." Seeing this, Zhang Feng grabbed Jing Shu's hand and said, "Last night, I made it very clear. These matters are women's matters. Today, since everyone is here, I will say one thing. For the perfume matter, I have given full authority to you. Jing Shu and Yu Yao will also help. So, ladies, if you have any matters, you can discuss it with Yu and Yu Yao." Hearing this, the beautiful women's faces could not help but change. "Prince Zhang, can you wait for a moment?" Wu Man'er's mother finally could not sit still. She hurriedly stopped Zhang Feng. In the Wu family, everyone knew what her status was. Because of Wu Man-er's status, she was also a mother because of her son. But in the Wu family, he was still nothing. But last night, when Wu Man-er came home, she went to see her and told her what happened last night. This gave her a glimmer of hope. Originally, her appearance was not bad. But because of her status, it was difficult for her to even see her husband's face, let alone share a bed with him. This perfume gave her hope. If she could get the perfume, Perhaps she would have some say in the Wu family. Not for anything else, but for Wu Man, or to not have the same fate as her in the future. This was the pain of living in a big family. Everyone had their own sufferings. Everyone's fate was almost out of their control. Hearing her words, the other women hurriedly stood up and begged. Even Wu Man and Zhao Ruer's faces changed. Zhao Yuer's face was full of astonishment and guilt. She thought that her words just now had angered Zhang Feng. At this moment, even Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao looked at Zhang Feng worriedly, as if they were begging Zhang Feng to stay. Seeing this, Zhang Feng's eyes flashed an imperceptible arc. He smiled faintly and said, "Since this is the case, then all right, let's have a good talk. But let me say this first, I really can't make the decision." Chapter 2163. In fact, Zhang Feng had never thought of leaving. This move of his was actually very common in later generations. Then I'll leave? Instantly, Zhang Feng thought of many things in his vague memory. Seeing that Zhang Feng had stayed behind, the worried faces of the women couldn't help but flash with a hint of ecstasy. Logically speaking, for people like them who played mind games even when they were sleeping in large clans, it was impossible for them to be so overjoyed. However, unless he encountered something really big, he would not be able to do anything. Today's matter should be considered a big matter. It was not only related to their happiness, but also might affect their daughter's happiness. At this moment, when they looked at Zhang Feng again, they actually looked at him like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. This made Zhang Feng slightly stunned. So I shouldn't have stayed? At this moment, the beautiful woman from the Wu family said, "I heard that although Prince Zhang is already engaged, he hasn't married yet?" Ahem. Zhang Feng thought to himself and quickly said, "No, but I already have 3 lovers. In this life, I won't have any other thoughts. After all, love can be divided, but if it is divided too much, there will be problems. Madam, you should understand, right?" Hearing this, Madame Wu's eyes flashed with a touch of disappointment. Even at this moment in the entire front hall, except for Zhang Yuyao and Jingshu, there was a touch of disappointment in everyone's eyes. Twins. Could it be that they were also interested in him? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded, but he hurriedly corrected his thoughts. Not to mention that having too many women was not good for the kidney, there might be other problems in the future. It was better not to think too much. Moreover, even if he wanted to, if Zhao Yu were thinking of that unruly girl, Zhang Feng shuddered. "Hey, didn't I specially prepare gifts for all of you? Why are you still looking at it? Quickly go and get it." Zhang Feng hurriedly changed the topic and looked at Cui, who was secretly happy at the side. Little Cui had a puzzled look on her face at first. But Jingshu's explanation enlightened little Cui. So little Cui hurriedly entered the back hall with the 2 women. After a while, the 3 women returned with a basket in little Cui's hand. Inside the basket were exquisite gift boxes carved from mahogany. At Zhang Feng's signal, little Cui gave the gift boxes to them one by one. Zhang Feng smiled and said, "These are perfume and some trinkets that I have prepared for you. I hope you will accept them." The gift box contained perfume, Zhang Feng's soap, and lipstick. Originally, Zhang Feng didn't plan to make these little toys. However, he was really bored on the way to Jiangnan, so he simply put on makeup for the women in the carriage and tinkered with them. In the end, he had an idea and made these things. She looked at the items in the gift box that she had never seen before. Everyone was dumbfounded. But fortunately, with Jingshu's introduction, everyone was full of joy. Prince Zhang is really... I don't know how to thank Prince Zhang. If Prince Zhang has anything to say, just say it. Although there are many things that I can't decide at home, I still know some high-ranking officials and their families. Zhang Feng was waiting for this sentence. After Madame Zhao said this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but reveal a difficult expression and said, "Thank you very much, Madame Zhao. I really do have something here. I hope that you can help me." Sure enough. Several people secretly said in their hearts, "Sure enough." They knew that Zhang Feng wouldn't be so kind-hearted. Now that he mentioned it, there really was something he wanted. However, looking at these precious items, they were curious as to what Zhang Feng wanted them to do. They didn't know where Zhang Feng had gotten these items from, but they were curious as to what Zhang Feng wanted them to do. Prince Zhang, as long as I can help you, just say it. But let me say this first, I can't guarantee that I can help you with anything. Zhang Feng laughed and cupped his fists at Madame Zhao. This isn't a big deal. Didn't I just come to Jiangnan? Everything requires money, but I'm just a scholar. All my wealth and resources have been given to the White Deer Institute. Therefore, at this moment, Junior's pockets are extremely tight. Seeing that several people started to take out money, Zhang Feng hurriedly interrupted them and said, "But this Junior isn't a shameless person. I'm not doing this for your money. I just want you ladies to help spread the news about the perfume." Spread the news? It was that simple? Several people were dumbfounded. If it was that simple, it wouldn't be like this. They knew Zhang Feng's ability. He gave away tens of thousands of gold pieces of paper and perfume just like that. Was he short of money? However, since Zhang Feng said it, and they weren't ignorant people, they understood Zhang Feng's meaning after Zhang Feng finished speaking. Madame Zhao smiled and nodded. I thought it was something big. So, it's just a small matter. Prince Zhang, don't worry. Just leave it to us. In less than 3 days, I guarantee that your house will be trampled flat. Zhang Feng heard and hurriedly pretended to be surprised. Thank you, madams. If you need anything in the future, just send someone to tell me. This Junior will immediately deliver it to your door. Chapter 2164. However, I'm going to hold an auction at Chang and Hotel in 3 days. I'd like to meet some business partners as soon as possible. I hope the ladies can help me inform them. It turned out that this kid had something up his sleeve. Could it be that they hadn't seen the red perfume that they heard about? However, this was already very precious. First of all, with their status, they knew that this thing was definitely worth more than 10,000 strings of cash. Not to mention the perfume, the cost of the bottle alone was definitely more than 100 strings of cash. That was not including the perfume in it. How much would this set cost? If they were to buy it, how much money would they have to spend to buy a bottle of perfume? This didn't even include the soap that was written on the rice paper. Although they didn't know the use of this thing, how could it be ordinary if it was given by Zhang Feng? Sure enough. Zhao Yu couldn't help but ask curiously, "Little Zhang, where's the perfume you gave yesterday? Why didn't you take it out? Also, what is this soap?" Ahem. Zhang Feng coughed a few times hurriedly. That perfume is too precious. With the current technology, I can only make 3 bottles, so I hope Miss Yu can understand. As for this soap, Zhang Feng pulled Jingshu over and pointed to her face, saying, "Ladies, this soap is very useful. It can make your skin cleaner when you take a bath every day. Moreover, there are a lot of spices added in the soap, which will leave a special fragrance on your body. This fragrance not only helps you sleep, but also has a beautifying effect." Upon hearing that, the ladies' expressions changed drastically in an instant. In that case, even the perfume couldn't be compared with him, right? At this moment, Zhang Feng saw the effect and struck the iron while it was hot again. He said, "Moreover, when you wash your face and rinse your mouth on a daily basis, this thing will also be used to wash your face and hair." When he said that, in an instant, the ladies were dumbfounded. Wasn't this too miraculous? But Zhao Yu still didn't believe him. After all, she had seen Zhang Feng's ability to brag. She hurriedly went down to take a bath. Fortunately, under Madame Zhao's scolding, Zhao Yu could only wash her face with soap in front of everyone, accompanied by Xiao Cui. Instantly, everyone was dumbfounded. Originally, Zhao Yu had fair skin, but the ancient way of washing up, as well as a special habit, caused the dead skin on her face to fall off automatically. But after using the soap, it was different. Dead skin and other dirt were all washed away in an instant. This time, Zhao Yuer's face was like a peeled egg, smooth and tender. At this moment, everyone finally realized the horror of the soap. After that, they left happily. Zhao Yu blushed, which was a rare sight. She looked at Zhang Feng with a bashful expression. This scene made Madame Wu shake her head and sigh. He was filled with envy. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel baffled. They didn't leave until they had a meal in Zhang Feng's house. After they left, Yu walked into the front hall with a blush. The others didn't mind, but But Wuxia said with some worry, "You just gave them these things? And you're going to give them these things in the future?" Zhang Feng nodded. "This is the business world. People are greedy. If you don't feed them, how can they have the strength to work for you?" Hearing that, Wuxia couldn't help but be speechless. Zhang Feng actually knew more about the business world than she did. Zhang Feng shook his head and ignored these people. He asked, "Do you know the people of the Yang family?" When it came to this family, Wuxia's expression changed instantly. "Why do you ask about them? This family, don't you know their origin?" Zhang Feng shook his head, "The remnants of the previous dynasty." "Then why are you asking about them?" "The enemy of my enemy is my partner. You know why I came to Jiangnan this time. The opponent is too strong. Other than the Yu family and the Yang family, I can't find a partner that I can truly trust." After all, it was because of them that the Yang family was driven out of politics. Zhang Feng understood well. Before he came to Jiangnan, the old scholar had specially mentioned this family to him. Although it was just a family, he still had connections over the years. It was just that he didn't have the ambition of the past. On one hand, it was impossible that the imperial family didn't notice their every move. On the other hand, the people of the 5 families and 7 clans wouldn't let a poisonous spider appear next to their pillows. Although this spider was already old, it was still alive. That was enough for Zhang Feng. Because what he needed now was not teammates, but a deterrent to the 5 families and 7 clans. It was for the 5 families and 7 clans to see. His backup plan was still in the business world, constantly nibbling away at them. At this moment, Mr. Yushan's attitude gave him a glimmer of hope. It would be best if he could drag the Cui family down with him. Chapter 2165. While they were talking, outside the door, Gao Ken's muffled voice sounded. "Dean, there's a visitor outside. He says he's Mr. Yushan." Zhang Feng's eyes lit up when he heard that. He hurriedly said, "Invite him in. Speak of the devil and he will appear." He was just thinking that the old man was really patient. He didn't expect him to come knocking on his door. This time, Zhang Feng met Mr. Yushan in the study. In the study, Mr. Yushan was admiring Zhang Feng's book collection with great interest, as well as the paintings and poems that Zhang Feng drew during his free time on the road. Every poem would be greatly praised by Mr. Yushan. "Good poem. It's really a good poem." "Mr. Court," Zhang Feng hurriedly said, "You flatter me, Mr. Yushan. You should call me Feng Zi. That's what Mr. Bashi calls me in the academy." Seeing Zhang Feng's reaction, Mr. Yushan laughed and said, "In the literary world, age is not important. But since you've said so, I'll take advantage of my seniority." "Feng Zi, what do you plan to do with these poems?" Zhang Feng frowned when he heard that. He was giving him a difficult problem to solve. "Mr. Yushan, I plan to put these in every corner of the academy after the academy is established. Everyone can see them." Mr. Yushan nodded in satisfaction when he heard that. When Zhang Feng was on the mountain, he had heard Yushernan and the others talk about these things more than once. Yushernan and the others also did so for fear that people wouldn't know. Therefore, at this moment, when Mr. Yushan asked, Zhang Feng answered without thinking. "The old man thinks that this time, the academy doesn't need to be called White Deer College. I think Chang and University is a good name." Zhang Feng was stunned. He almost forgot about that. In the beginning, Chang and University was established for fun. However, after White Deer College was officially launched, Chang and University was almost abandoned. Now that he mentioned it, Zhang Feng instantly understood what he meant. "Teacher, you mean to say that the academy established in Jiangnan will be a good place to start? Just call it Chang and University?" "Yes." Yushan nodded and said, "White Deer College is good, but I couldn't sleep last night after thinking about it. Since you plan to build an academy here, why don't you build one in every state of the Tang dynasty?" Zhang Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was so close to asking Mr. Yushan for his WeChat ID. This idea was really bold, but it was also Zhang Feng's idea. However, this matter was too big, and Zhang Feng didn't dare to think about it. He could only think about it after the first batch of students had successfully graduated. In that case, he would have people under him and wouldn't be so busy. "Mr. Yushan, To be honest, I've been planning to do this for a long time. Therefore, after White Deer College was built, Chang and University was almost abandoned. However, this matter is too big. I'm afraid I can't do it alone, unless the students in the academy graduate in 3 years. Only then will there be people. Moreover, the teaching market of the academy is different from others. Therefore, it requires a certain amount of knowledge in the academy to operate. Yes, it's not that troublesome. Mr. Yushan waved his hand and said, "Before I came, I met a few old friends. They also praised your idea. This is after eliminating the political conflicts between them and your family. You also saw the poor students outside last night. These people can really represent the real situation of the Tang dynasty. Therefore, the competition between the clans for talents and the deep-rooted poverty of these people caused them to miss out on a lot of things. However, once your academy appears, everyone will see hope. This hope is what the entire Tang dynasty needs most at this moment. Because at present, the Imperial College, Hongwen-Guan, and the monopoly of these clans will only make the poor poorer and the rich more extreme. This is not normal, and it is not the path that a country should take. Therefore, last night, the old man and a few old friends were discussing this matter and almost stayed up all night. Boy, as long as you do it, we old bones will definitely help you." Zhang Feng could not help but be a little absent-minded. Once this matter had reached this point, it was really hard to say. However, Zhang Feng had already expected what would happen after seeing the humble class disciple last night. After all, before the establishment of White Deer College, he had seen cruelty and desolation. Therefore, Zhang Feng ran the school for free. Even so, at the beginning, if it were not for the help of Lao Li and the others, Zhang Feng would not have been able to do what he did now. On one hand, it was a matter of money. On the other hand, it was because of politics. He was not a child and naturally knew that if it were not for the secret help of the emperor, Lord Zhongsun, and Li Shaogong, his academy, it would just be a joke. However, at this moment in Jiangnan, he did not have so much help. Everything had to be done by himself. These were all small matters. The only thing he needed to worry about was these clans. These clans controlled almost all the talents in the region. The slightest bit of talent would almost be nibbled away by them almost instantly. In this way, was his academy not built for these people? Mr. Yushan, actually, I think this matter can be delayed. In fact, Mr. Yushan had long known about Zhang Feng's worries. After seeing Zhang Feng yesterday, he knew that the war between Zhang Feng and the 5 clans and 7 clans was inevitable. However, at this moment, when Zhang Feng really said it, Mr. Yushan realized the seriousness of the matter. Just as Zhang Feng said, if he did not solve the problem of the 5 clans and 7 clans, how could he run the school? In that case, do as you see fit. Chapter 2166. But, kid, I can think of a way for you. I heard you came up with some perfume last night? Zhang Feng took out a gift box from the table in the study and gave it to Mr. Yushan. Mister, I didn't know you were at the poetry house yesterday, so I was rude. Today, I've prepared some gifts for you. I hope you'll accept them. Seeing this, Mr. Yushan laughed and said, actually, if you give me some cigarettes and paper, it'll be better than anything else. Fine, since you're so kind, I'll accept them. Of course, I'll also pay attention to your matters. I've always been concerned about the matters of the academy. I don't know when I'll be gone, so what I'm thinking is that in my lifetime, it'll be great if I can see these poor people become familiar with their studies. Zhang Feng was silent. At this moment, he finally understood why Mr. Yushan had been so aggressive at the poetry gathering after learning about his situation. He wanted to see real hope. Every single one of them followed the teachings of Confucius and wanted everyone in the world to be able to study. However, due to the current situation, no one was able to achieve their wish. However, White Deer College gave them a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, this was the only chance for them to achieve their dream in a short period of time. Kid, the Tao of Saints isn't so easy to follow. Every one of us came from your age. Every one of us wants to do something, but in the end, we'll all be drowned in worldly fame and fortune. Hearing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly nodded and said, I'll remember Mister's teachings. What teachings? Next time, Prepare a set of the academy's timetable and textbooks for the old man. Let the old man see what's so great about your academy. Zhang Feng was speechless. Actually, his academy was nothing special. In the future, it wouldn't even be considered trash. However, if Zhang Feng's teaching philosophy could really prevail in this era, it would be a symbol of glory for Zhang Feng. Moreover, this might be the only way for him to remember the future. Only by infinitely creating something that belonged to the future, making this era infinitely close to the future, and making this prosperous Tang dynasty perfect to the greatest extent that he could. Perhaps, there was a slight chance that he could go back to the past, right? Just as Zhang Feng was letting his imagination run wild, Mr. Yushan left with satisfaction. Only Zhang Feng was left in the study in silence. No one knew what he was thinking, but at this moment, the whole of Jiangnan was in an uproar because of the perfume and the poetry gathering last night. No one would have thought that the person who caused such an uproar in the Yu State Prefecture was actually Zhang Feng. Was it really the dean of White Deer College? They had always thought that Zhang Feng was someone with the same name or an imposter. How could they have known that this Zhang Feng was really the famous dean of White Deer College? At this moment, in an ordinary mansion in Qiantang, Hangzhou, a group of people were walking around in the living room with serious expressions. This was the once famous Yang clan, the orphan of the Sui dynasty's royal family. At this moment, they were just struggling at death's door in Jiangnan. Anyone could overtake them. All these years, they had been silently waiting for an opportunity. Even if they couldn't restore their country, at least they could let their clansmen live without fear. At this moment, they saw an opportunity, and that was Zhang Feng who had just appeared. Although it was rumored that this kid was very close to Li Shimin, this kid actually came to Jiangnan alone. Moreover, it was rumored that this kid wanted to single-handedly attack the nest of the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms in Jiangnan. They didn't know if this kid was stubborn or if he didn't know who the 5 clans and 7 kingdoms were. However, this was also an opportunity, especially when they looked at the white paper on the table. This was undoubtedly an opportunity for the Yang clan. They were always paying attention to the movements in Chang. After all, if Li Shimin had a nightmare that day, their heads would probably be separated from their bodies. And as long as they hugged Zhang Feng's thigh, at least they wouldn't be beaten from the front and back. Being sandwiched between the 5 clans and Li Shimin, they had really had enough of these years. How about it? What do you think of Zhang Feng? If it's possible, should we find someone to talk to him? At this moment, at the top of the living room, an old lady with thin lips looked at the crowd and asked. As soon as these words came out, the group of old men in the hall were all sighing in despair. Once upon a time, the famous Yang clan actually had to rely on a junior to survive. But time waits for no man. They had no choice at this moment. Seeing that no one spoke, the old lady looked at the curtain behind her and said with some pity, "Ying, this time it's up to you." Moreover, Zhang Feng, this kid is infatuated, not the kind of person who is fickle in love. I think with your appearance and intelligence, our Yang clan should be able to escape this disaster. Old man, why don't we find someone else? As far as I know, last night, the 2 girls of the Zhao clan had already hooked up with Zhang Feng, and the girl of the Wu clan also had some entanglements with Zhang Feng. At this moment, a delicate voice came from the curtain, "No, I'll go." Chapter 2167. At the same time, the Zhao residence. The Zhao family was the first family that Zhang Feng extended an olive branch to after the Yu family. At this moment, in the Zhao residence's living room, Madame Zhao looked at the mahogany box on the table with an ugly expression. She was reluctant to part with it. Even Zhao Yu made a scene in the hall, but it was useless. "But this is a gift from Zhang Feng to my mother. Why should I give it to you? And you old thing, do you believe that I will burn down your house? What right do you have to take something from my, Zhao Yu's friend? No, I have to go tell Zhang Feng and have Zhang Feng skin you alive." Enough! Madame Zhou, is this how you educate your daughter? At this time, in the corner of the hall, a middle-aged man who looked very similar to Zhao Yu and Zhao Yu stood up and scolded. Zhao Yu's face turned pale when she heard this. "Father, mother is being bullied. If you don't help mother, what kind of man are you? Enough. Come, Take them away. At this time, the old man sitting at the head of the table scolded angrily. In an instant, Madame Zhao, Zhao Yu, and Zhao Yu's eyes were filled with despair. Glancing at the middle-aged man, the three of them left in disappointment. After the three of them left, Zhao Yu's father, who was the current head of the Zhao family, bowed to the several elders with a guilty face. My family's education was not strict enough. I have made a fool of myself in front of the elders. It's fine. The old man at the head of the table happily picked up the perfume and smeared it on his face, arms, and even his stomach. In just a short while, the bottle of perfume was gone. Isn't this too little? Is this the kid's sincerity? I don't think it's much. The old man clapped his hands, then picked up the soap and sniffed it. Then he took a sip. In an instant, his mouth was full of soap bubbles. The old man frowned slightly and said with disdain, "Flashy but impractical thing. I thought it was something great." After a round of evaluation, Zhang Feng's items instantly became trash in his eyes. At this moment, the entire Zhao family was reprimanding Zhang Feng. It was as if they despised Zhang Feng for being so flashy. At this moment, the old man asked, "Zhao Zhu, I heard from that last Yu, that the brat called Zhang Feng wants to give this white paper business to the Yu family. What benefits will my Zhao family get?" This, Zhao Yu's father was speechless, but he didn't dare to offend any of these people. He hurriedly said, "Old master, Zhang Feng seems to want to cooperate with our Zhao family." Cooperation? No. There's no sincerity at all. How can we talk about cooperation? Right. It's obvious that this lecher has taken a liking to you, and coveted their beauty. But that brat is really a perfect candidate. It's just that he doesn't know any better. Why doesn't he give this white paper business to our Zhao family? If that's the case, maybe I'll agree. At this moment, the old man nodded and said, "Let's put this matter aside for now. Let's wait and see. Since that bastard Zhang Feng has taken a liking to you, then he has to show his sincerity. Last night, I heard that old thing Yushan was discussing with his friends. It seems like they want to open White Deer College together with Zhang Feng. That brat doesn't have any ability, but this White Deer College is good stuff. If he hands over the White Deer College business to us, in addition to the businesses in his hands, this matter can be discussed. Old man Yu and Ru can be betrothed to him." Zhao Zhu couldn't help but sweat profusely. What was the attitude of these muddle-headed and arrogant old things 10 years ago? Wasn't it just because they saw that Yu and Ru's suitors were all high-ranking officials and dignitaries? Even people from the 5 surnames and 7 clans had offered them an olive branch? They were so cocky just like that? They didn't know about this, but as the person in charge of the Zhao family, he knew how terrifying Zhang Feng was. Just like that, they lost an opportunity that could have given the Zhao family a meteoric rise. How sorrowful was this? Zhao Zhu didn't harbor any hope at this moment. He just stood there numbly. After sending off the pedantic elders of the Zhao family with much difficulty, Zhao Zhu slumped into a chair as if all the energy in his body had been sucked out of him. He knew that the Zhao family might not be able to rise again after today's absurd decision. "Father, are you just going to watch us get bullied like that? Do you know how much effort we put in to make that bastard Zhang Feng agree to work with our Zhao family? That Zhang Feng is a complete bastard. He's a pain in the ass." Zhao Yu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. They didn't leave. After the group of old fogies left, they walked into the living room and pointed at Zhao Zhu, scolding him to his face. If it were any other time, Zhao Zhu would definitely punish them. But at this moment he knew and understood his daughter's feelings. Even Madame Zhao could only hold onto the door frame and cry. She didn't even have the energy to curse. Do you like Zhang Feng?" In an instant, Zhao Zhu's voice stunned Zhao Yu, who was cursing, and Zhao Ru, who was trying to persuade her mother not to be sad. Madame Zhao also looked at Zhao Zhu in horror and screamed, "Zhao Zhu, you bastard! What time is it now? You still want to use your own flesh and blood? Are you still human?" Chapter 2168. However, after Zhao Yu and Zhao Ru were stunned for a moment, their faces flushed red. This time, Zhao Zhu understood. Madame Zhao also understood. However, they were born in aristocratic families. Their daughters were mostly born for marriage. This was their fate. If they could find someone they liked as a sacrifice, Madame Zhao would definitely support them. However, today, Zhang Feng had made it clear. It was impossible. Yu Er's character was too wild. It was also because she was ostracized when she was young. Something had happened between her and Zhang Feng. This matter, however, how could Zhao Zhu not know? However, he was a man. He understood some things better. After a long silence, he said, I can't disobey the clan ancestors. They are the elders of the Zhao family. However, I also know about Zhang Feng's matter. At this moment, the Zhao family is going downhill. The Zhao family is destined to lose this opportunity. After a moment of silence, Zhao Zhu said with a haggard face, I feel guilty for my whole life. However, this is the Zhao family. This is what every big family is going through and will go through in the future. So, I can't do anything. However, it is rare for me to see such an outstanding person. I have been worried that the two of you will become sacrifices. However, since both of you like Zhang Feng, then this time, even if I lose the whole Zhao family, I will send you out of the Zhao family and let Zhang Feng marry you in a palanquin. Zhao Zhu said very slowly and seriously. However, the more he said, the more Zhao Yu and Zhao Ru cried. This was the sorrow of the clan. Under the bright and beautiful exterior, what was hidden was helplessness, filth, shamelessness, benefits, and exploitation. This was the clan. They did not know that one day they would meet the destined person in their life. He would bring them away from all this and find a big mountain to live in seclusion. However, father. Woo, husband, what should we do? In an instant. In the whole Zhao family and other living rooms, there were sounds of mournful crying. However, in the Wu family. At this moment, the Wu family people were about to send guards to find trouble with Zhang Feng. At this moment, in the Wu's living room, Wu Liuji and Lu Shuheng's faces were filled with grief and indignation as they recounted what had happened to Zhang Feng last night. In an instant, the entire Wus were enraged. Preposterous! When has my Wu family ever suffered such humiliation? Zhang Feng, you've gone too far. Hearing this, Wu Liuji hurriedly said, Father, you don't know. Last night at the poetry house, he actually said that our Wus was just a small family that was not in the top class. Moreover, he said that he would come back to deal with our Wus. Speaking of which, in an instant, all the elders of the Wus were furious. Seeing this, Wu Liuji continued to add fuel to the fire. In their opinion, they had to get back the face they had lost last night. And the only way to do that was to suppress them. This was the method that the Wu family had always used, and it was also the most effective. However, at this moment, Wu Man'er's voice caused everyone to stop abruptly. Father, don't you know Wu Liuji's character? Speaking of which, in an instant, Wu Liuji was anxious. Wu Man, this is an important place for the family. You're a woman, what are you doing here? Miss Wu here, Wu Man, ignored them and went straight to the living room. Looking at the unhappy and hesitant people, she saluted and said, Last night, there were many people present. Father, you only need to send someone to inquire about it. The Wu's family head slightly frowned and asked, Man, what exactly happened last night? Also, today I heard that you and your mother went to find Zhang Feng. What's going on? An unmarried woman showing up in public like this? What a scandal! Wu Man, ignored her father's responsibility and slowly walked towards him. In an instant, the Wu's family head and everyone else could not help but sniff. A strong fragrance wafted out, causing everyone to look at Wu Man'er. Even the Wu's family head changed the topic and asked, Man, what's this smell on your body? At this moment, everyone realized this point. Wu Man waved her sleeves and said, Father, if you want to know what happened last night and today, I hope you can let these two people leave here. This, Wu Man, you're outrageous. I'm your brother anyway. How can you talk to your brother like this? Wu Man, ignored him and looked at the Wu's family head. After a few seconds of consideration, the Wu's family head waved his hand and scolded, "You two leave first." Wu Liuji was anxious. Father, Zhang Feng, that bastard, used some unknown means to make man or fall in love with him. This is evil magic. Moreover, she might have something on her body today. That bastard Zhang Feng did something to her. Get out! The Wu's family head roared with an ashen face. In an instant, Wu Liuji withered and left with his tail between his legs. After the two left, the Wu's family head looked at Wu Man and Wu Shi and said, "Can you tell me now?" "Father, take a look at this thing first." Chapter 2169. Wu Man quietly blocked the hand that was about to give the gift from Zhang Feng to the Wu family and directly gave it to family head Wu. In an instant, the elders of the Wu family in the living room all gathered around, wanting to see what was inside the small box. When they gathered around, they were instantly shocked by the thing inside. Colored glass? Such pure colored glass. Where did it come from? And this fragrance, why is it so similar to manners? Oh right, this thing, where have I seen it before? This is soap. I once saw it in an old friend's house when I was in Chang. I heard that he got it as a reward from White Deer College. Oh my God! This box, how much is it worth? In an instant, everyone was in an uproar. No one knew how much this box of items was worth. But, in short, with the current Wu family, it would definitely be painful to buy it. At this moment, family head Wu realized the seriousness of the problem and hurriedly asked, "Man, where did this thing come from?" Seeing that everyone took a long detour to get to the point, Wu Man said, "These were given by Prince Zhang." But everyone's suspicions arose again. Such a valuable thing, and he gave it away just like that? Could it be what Wu Liuji said was true? What did Zhang Feng, that bastard, do to man? In an instant, in the entire living room, angry voices rang out. But Wu Man quietly listened to everyone's curses and was unmoved, as if all this had nothing to do with her. When everyone was tired of scolding, she then slowly said, "Prince Zhang originally wanted to cooperate with the Wu family. These things are really nothing to Prince Zhang. They were just given to me. But now, it seems that you all still have some prejudice against Prince Zhang. In that case, I'll go and talk to Prince Zhang and say that the Wu family has no intention of cooperating with Prince Zhang." Once these words came out, the entire Wu family's upper management was stunned. "No, man, you said that these things were given to you by Zhang Feng? No, this is not right. Why would he give you such valuable things for no reason?" "Shut up." It was family head Wu who saw further. After he shouted, he looked at the perfume in his hand and asked, "Zhang Feng, do you want to do business in Jiangnan? You're selling this?" Wu Maner nodded. Family head Wu grabbed the bottle of perfume and almost dropped it on the ground. This thing. Although he didn't know what it was, the benefits of this thing told him that its value was extraordinary. Does Zhang Feng, no, Prince Zhang have any requests? Or should I say, what does he want? Family head Wu stared into Wu Maner's eyes and asked carefully. He was afraid that Wu Maner would be abducted by Zhang Feng. Wu Man was the key to the Wu family's further development in Jiangnan. Moreover, someone from the Zheng family in Xinjiang once valued man. Although she was only a concubine, what was it to the Wu family? Although the Wu family was still hesitating, family head Wu knew that when spring came, there would definitely be people from the Zheng family coming to their door. As for Zhang Feng's background, he was very clear. At this time, for the Wu family, it was undoubtedly a test, and a big one. It seemed that Zhang Feng also had this intention. He just wanted to see what the Wu family would choose. Looking at the perfume in his hand, family head Wu couldn't help but be silent. Behind Zhang Feng, there was very likely to be people from the royal family supporting him. And the royal family and the people from the 5 surnames and 7 major clans were bound to have a war. This was something that everyone could see. At this time, it was very important to choose a side. If one took a wrong step, then the whole family would die without a burial place. And Zhang Feng's matter in Chang, and although there were only a few words in Jiangnan, it could make the people from the 5 surnames and 7 major clans treat him so seriously. One could imagine how powerful this person was. At this moment, The people from the Wu family seemed to be thinking about these things. Family head Wu heaved a long sigh of relief, looked at Wu Munair and asked, "Munair, what do you plan to do?" Wu Munair didn't expect her father to ask her like this. She looked at family head Wu with some surprise, and after a moment of silence, she said, 3 days later, Zhang Feng will open the bidding at Chang, an hotel for the business of his business partners, including fine salt, paper, perfume, and so on. After saying this, Wu Munair said expressionlessly, "If there is nothing else, Munair will leave." While speaking, Wu Munair and Wuxia ignored the dissuasion of others and directly left this place. At this moment, Wuxia's chest couldn't help but violently rise and fall. This moment, since she entered the Wu family, was the most glorious moment. After the two of them left, Wuxia looked at Wu Munair's graceful figure and couldn't help but overlap with Zhang Feng's figure. "Munair, do you like Zhang Feng?" The sudden words made Wu Munair tremble all over. She didn't say anything. Just a moment of silence and then still walked forward. She knew about the Zheng family, and she also knew that after spring, the man in his 30s would come to the house to take her away as a concubine. Although she didn't say anything. But 2 lines of clear tears had already slid down her cheeks. Wuxia looked at the broken tears on the ground. How could she not know Wu Munair's thoughts? This was the only reason why she insisted on living. And it was a piece of her flesh. How could she not know? Looking at Wu Munair's back, Wuxia bit her lips and said, "Munair, don't worry, even if I die, I will let you leave this prison. This is the only thing mother can do for you." At the same time, at the gate of Zhang Feng's mansion, Yu Qigong's horse slowly stopped. Looking at the gate, all the guards at the gate were dumbfounded. Everyone was about to bow, but was interrupted by Yu Qigong's cold snort. "Is Fengzi in the mansion?" "Master Yu, my master is here." Hearing this, Yu Qigong laughed loudly as if he was afraid that others didn't know, and shouted, "Haha, Fengzi, you little bastard, do you miss Lao Tzu?" Chapter 2170. Yu Qigong didn't try to hide his words. It was as if he was afraid that no one would know. Even Zhang Feng, who was in the room discussing the perfume business with the 3 girls, was dumbfounded. "Damn, this is old Yu, your brother?" Zhang Feng looked at Yu Qiyu, in a daze. Yu Qiyu, didn't react either. She looked at the door and said, "It should be my cousin, right?" While they were talking, Yu Qigong pushed open the door and looked at the girls and Zhang Feng. He sniffed and laughed. "Brother, you didn't expect me to come, did you? Ha, I missed you so much." As he spoke, Yu Qigong stepped forward and hugged Zhang Feng, almost strangling him to death. After a while, Zhang Feng realized the problem and asked, "Old Yu, why are you here? I heard you were bullied in Jiangnan. As your brother, how can I not help you?" Yu Qigong said it lightly, but Zhang Feng wasn't stupid. He looked at Yu Qigong's weather-beaten face suspiciously, but he didn't expose him. In fact, Yu Qigong didn't have an easy journey. Ever since he heard that Zhang Feng was in trouble as soon as he arrived in Jiangnan and that the people of the 5 clans and 7 clans were making a big move, Li Shimin was shocked and hurriedly ordered him to mobilize 10,000 soldiers from the Chang and military camp. Originally, he wanted Qing Yaojin to come, but after some thought, he decided to let Yu Qigong come. On one hand, Yu Qigong had connections in Jiangnan and could help Zhang Feng. On the other hand, Cheng Yaojin's personality was too obvious and reckless. He would only cause trouble if he came, so Li Shimin thought for a while and asked Yu Qigong to hurry over. Yu Qigong also traveled lightly. He went straight from Chang and to Luozhou and then took a boat to Jiangnan. It would have taken 8 days to travel by water, but Yu Qigong didn't care about the cost and the customs documents of the various states along the way. He didn't encounter any obstacles on the water. The most important thing was that Yu Qigong was on a 5-toothed warship. Only the Navy had something like this. From a distance, one could tell that it was something from the military. Moreover, Yu Qigong had installed cannons on the 5-tooth warships in a high-profile manner. Whenever he saw a blockage or something, he would fire it directly. It only took him 3 days to reach a place dozens of miles away from Hangzhou. In order not to attract the attention of the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans, he even set fire to the warship. Then he disguised himself as a merchant and took a carriage to Hangzhou overnight. Unfortunately, as soon as he arrived in Hangzhou, he heard that Zhang Feng was in Yuezhou. Moreover, he also heard that Zhang Feng was in Yuezhou. Therefore, he hurriedly rode a fast horse and galloped all the way here. Of the 10,000 elites he had brought with him, most of them were left behind in Luozhou, and more than 1,000 were left behind in Hangzhou. Now that he had arrived in Yuezhou, he was almost a general without an army. But none of this was important. The most important thing was to see that Zhang Feng was fine. Seeing the exhaustion on Yu Qigong's face, Zhang Feng hurriedly had someone prepare a bath. He wanted to give Yu Qigong a proper welcome. However, Yu Qigong refused and waved his hand, saying, "It's not the time yet. I haven't been to the Yu family for a long time. Take me to the Yu family. Brother, I have some matters to attend to. Let's drink together tomorrow." As he spoke, Yu Qigong hurriedly left with Yu Qiyu, without waiting for Zhang Feng to react. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was stunned. Could it be that something had happened in the capital? Or did the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans stir up trouble in Chang, and after I left? This caused Zhang Feng's mood to be in turmoil. As soon as they left Zhang Feng's residence, Yu Qigong hurriedly asked about everything that had happened after Zhang Feng had arrived in Jiangnan. When he learned about what had happened yesterday and today, as well as the Yu family's reaction, Yu Qigong was furious. "Damned bastard, I've already said it so clearly in the letter. Why are you still so timid? Are you all just a bunch of pigs?" Yu Qiyu smiled bitterly when she saw how angry Yu Qigong was. "Brother, don't blame my father and the others for this. After all, you rarely come to Jiangnan, so you don't know much about Jiangnan. Jiangnan isn't as simple as you think. Otherwise, Brother Feng wouldn't have used such a scheme." Silence. Yu Qiyuer's carriage instantly fell silent. Only Yu Qigong's sighs could be heard from time to time. In less than 2 hours, the carriage sped out of Yuezhou and appeared in front of the Yu family's gate in Hangzhou Prefecture. Jiangnan's Yu family. When they had come, they had wanted to keep it a secret. Most importantly, they were afraid that the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans would be dissatisfied if they found out that they were Yu Qigong's relatives, which would be detrimental to the imperial court. Therefore, in the beginning, the Yu Qi family had always changed their surname to Yu. However, after the incident at the Wei River, the Yu Qi family had been exposed in order to intimidate the north and south. However, because of Zhang Feng's matter, the Yu Qi family had changed their surname back to Yu. This was originally not a big deal. After all, what one's surname was had nothing to do with them. The Yu Qi family had long been aware of Yu Qigong's arrival. When Yu Qigong had left for Yuezhou, the Yu Qi family had urgently gathered all the important members of the Yu family from all over Jiangnan. When Yu Qigong returned to the Yu Qi mansion, there were already dozens of people of all ages waiting at the gate. When they saw the anger on Yu Qigong's face, they felt like frosted eggplants. It wasn't difficult for them to guess that Yu Qigong had come this time because of Zhang Feng. What had they done when it came to Zhang Feng? "My worthy nephew, Yu Qihong braced himself and smiled as he tried to say something to Yu Qigong. However, Yu Qigong didn't give him any face. He walked past him angrily and strode into the Yu Qi mansion. Everyone couldn't help but shudder. It seemed that Yu Qigong was really angry this time. When everyone saw this, they hurriedly stepped forward to stop Yu Qiyu. "What's going on? What happened to your cousin? Why did he become like this after a trip to Yuezhou? Or did Zhang Feng say something?" Yu Qiyu was quite speechless. She could only follow Yu Qigong and enter the mansion. At this moment, Yu Suqian, who had met Zhang Feng twice, hurriedly came forward and whispered in Yu Qiyu's ear. What was supposed to be a good welcoming scene instantly turned into a tense atmosphere in the Yu family. As soon as they entered the living room, Yu Qigong lit a cigarette and casually sat on the side to smoke. After everyone came in, Yu Qigong said coldly, "Uncle, what's going on? Didn't you read my letter?" Hearing Yu Qigong's question, Yu Qihong bitterly smiled and recounted all the difficulties that the Yu family had encountered. There were even people who were crying and talking about their hardships, causing Yu Qigong's veins to bulge out in anger. "Do you care so much about these trivial matters? You are stupid. Really stupid. Do you know that even the emperor is paying special attention to Feng Zi's matter? Do you know what order I received when I came here this time? The emperor's secret order was to support Zhang Feng at all costs. I told you time and time again not to care about the current things and to help Zhang Feng, but what did you do? Zhang Feng has been in Jiangnan for 5 days, but what did you do? You didn't even bother to pay him a visit? Yu Qigong was truly enraged. When the emperor found out about the Jiangnan Yuqi family's actions after Zhang Feng came to Jiangnan, he was furious. He originally thought that with the help of the Jiangnan Yuqi family, Zhang Feng's arrival in Jiangnan would be a matter of course. However, was that really the case? Because of this, the emperor almost directly ordered the Yuqi family to move to a place like Qiuzi, where not a single hair would be plucked out. What was this? This was a damn punishment. That was why Yu Qigong came to Jiangnan in such a rage. Chapter 2171. Yu Qihong really couldn't figure out what Yu Qigong wanted to do, so he could only remain silent. But at this moment, Yu Qigong heard Yu Suqian and Yu Er's whispers. Who's talking? What are you talking about? Yu Qiu glanced at Yu Suqian and said, Nothing, it's just that he and brother Feng seem to have some plans. Yu Qigong couldn't help but glance at the wretched-looking and skinny Yu Suqian. Who are you? Yu Suqian was very excited. Who's this? This is the Duca. Moreover, he's my elder brother. With this identity, won't I be able to walk sideways if this gets out? Just as he was about to speak, he was choked by Yu Qigong's words and almost stumbled. Tang, that person, father, say something. Yu Suqian saw that Yu Qigong really didn't know him and hurriedly shouted at his father. With this shout, Yu Qigong noticed Yu Qi too and suddenly understood. So it's you, little brat. When your father was at the front line, he said that a little brat was born and had to come back. Was he talking about you? Yes, it's me. Yu Suqian pointed at himself shamelessly and looked at the black-faced Yu Qi Tuesday. Brother, you don't know Enough, let me ask you. What are you and Feng Zi doing? Also, I heard from you on the way that you and Feng Zi have some plans, right? Yu Suqian hurriedly told Yu Qigong about Zhang Feng's plan, the white paper business that Zhang Feng told him, as well as Yuezhou's Yu family's plan at the moment. Yu Qigong was so angry that he almost smashed the coffee table with his palm. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Do you know how much effort the emperor and Lao Tzu spent to snatch white paper from that brat's mouth? You bastards. How dare you complain that Feng Zi didn't give you enough? Who do you think you are? Even the King Emperor. Even the current emperor calls him brother, but the emperor doesn't feel wronged. Where did you King get the confidence to think that Zhang Feng is climbing up our Yu family's social ladder? Believe it or not, if what you just said is passed back to Chang, and believe it or not, within 5 days, the imperial palace will send an imperial edict telling all of you to King go to Qiuzi city. Yu Qigong was truly enraged this time. She was crying because of their stupidity. It was impossible for them not to know who Zhang Feng was. But even if they knew, did they think they could act like this just because they were Yu Qiu's relatives? Did they not know that at this moment, as long as Zhang Feng raised his arm and shouted, all the people in Chang and in Guanlong would instantly fight over this cake? Yu Qigong cursed for 2 whole hours before finally venting all the resentment in his heart. He let out a long sigh and said, all the juniors can leave. Second uncle, eldest uncle, third uncle, all of you stay behind. The rest of you, scram as far away as you can. Oh right. Who's staying behind? Yu Suqian was scolded by Yu Qigong until he was a little dizzy. At this moment, when he heard Yu Qigong's voice, he almost didn't react. Fortunately, his father pulled him back, allowing him to react. Almost all the people who stayed behind were the true leaders of the Yuqi family. After everyone left, Yu Qigong waved his hand for everyone to sit down and said, this time, I understand Feng Zi's situation. I'll give you all an explanation. Feng Zi came to Jiangnan this time to get rid of the 5 families and 7 major families. Therefore, although the emperor is far away in Chang, and he has been paying attention to the situation here. Moreover, what Feng Zi has shown is only the tip of the iceberg. Whatever Feng Zi gives you, you take it. If he doesn't give it to you, don't ask for it from me. I've already lost face in front of the emperor. If this happens again, I won't be able to protect you." This time, everyone was aghast. Yuchiyu was the only one who remained calm. "Hey, kid, what do you think of Fengzi's relationship with you? Also, what's your plan?" "Cousin, my name is Yu Suqian. Now I'm called Yu Suqian." Yu Suqian introduced himself with a solemn face and then said, "The night before yesterday, I discussed with Fengzi. He said that Fengzi will open a book club in Yuezhou today and tomorrow. He also asked me to contact the people who went to the poetry club the night before, and then, Fengzi wants to open an academy?" Yu Qigong frowned and instantly thought of the key to the problem. Yu Suqian was stunned and asked, "He said he wants to open an academy?" Yu Qigong waved his hand and asked, "Why is he looking for those people? I heard Fengzi say that he wants to publish a book." What? Yu Qigong was stunned. He exclaimed in an instant. This was the first time he heard that Fengzi wanted to publish a book. This was really a new thing. In his memory, Zhang Feng, this bastard, was a lazy person. How could he be in the mood to write a book at this time? Chapter 2172. Wasn't this a joke? At this time, the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans were starting to cause trouble under his nose. How could he have the leisure to write a book? Yu Qigong couldn't understand. Although he also knew some things. Among the people he knew, it would take at least 3 to 5 years to write a book. This could wait for 3 to 5 years? Mother ***, what happened to Fengzi? Thinking of this, Yu Qigong couldn't sit still and hurriedly asked, Do you know about Zhang Feng? What is he trying to do?" If Yu Qiyu didn't listen to Yu Suqian, she really didn't know about this. At this moment, she was also confused. "Brother, I don't know about this matter, but Brother Feng should be preparing for the academy, right?" When Yu Qigong heard this, he became anxious. He hurriedly ordered, "In short, from now on, our Yu family and that bastard are grasshoppers on the same rope. The matter of the 5 surnames and 7 clans is also something that must be done. It depends on whether you want to live or not. This matter will determine the future of the entire Jiangnan clans. Don't King rely on Lao Tzu. Otherwise, no matter what happens to you, Lao Tzu will be the first to not forgive you." After saying this, Yu Qigong called dozens of guards and hurriedly rode all the way to Yuezhou. When Yu Qigong returned to Yuezhou, the sun had already set in the west. As soon as he entered Zhang Feng's residence, Yu Qigong couldn't wait to find Zhang Feng and asked, "Fengzi, I heard from that bastard Yu Suqian that you are preparing to write a book?" Zhang Feng was stunned and nodded. "Yes, what's wrong?" "What's wrong? What do you think? It will take at least several years to write a book. How can we have the time? And this time, I came to tell you something big." While speaking, Yu Qigong whispered in Zhang Feng's ear, "This time, Lord Zhang Sun personally sent 10,000 elite soldiers to escort me by water." "Do you know why?" Zhang Feng's nose twitched. "Does Lord Zhang Sun care about you?" ***ck off. Yu Qigong was furious and said in a low voice, "Because something happened in Chang'an." "What?" Zhang Feng was shocked and hurriedly asked, "What is it?" "When you came to Jiangnan, you heard Lord Zhang Sun say that the spies of the Ministry of Personnel heard that the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans had already come into contact with the people of Guanlong. I don't have to explain what this means, do I? Moreover, not only that, haven't you noticed that ever since you came to Jiangnan, the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans have barely moved?" Only then did Zhang Feng realize the seriousness of the problem. He hurriedly asked, "I really haven't seen anyone from the 5 families and 7 clans come out, but it's all their subordinate clans that are looking for trouble, especially the Gao family." "That's right." Yu Qigong sighed. "Do you know who's behind the Gao family?" "Fanyang Lu." "Yes." Yu Qigong lit a cigarette and took a few deep puffs before saying, "Do you know what the Fanyang Lu started with?" This was not a problem for Zhang Feng. They all knew this, and in history, Zhang Feng knew what these families did. The Fanyang Lu was a family that claimed to share the inheritance of Confucius with the Qinghe Chui. Almost half of the people in the Tang dynasty came from the previous dynasties. The Fanyang Lu and the Qinghe Chui made up the majority of the imperial court. As for the other families, almost all of them were in the military or had made achievements in the military and business fields. In the Han Dynasty, these families were particularly outstanding during the reign of Emperor Wu of Han. However, the Great Han Dynasty was not as strong as before due to years of war. In the end, Emperor Wu of Han divided these families into different territories in order to govern these officials. That was how the first generation of the 8 families of Guanlong came into existence. In history, the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans were originally involved in various aspects. However, they could not resist the transfer of talents and the influence of the national power at that time. In the end, a few families joined forces and developed their current specialties. For example, the Wang clan of Taiyuan mainly controlled the mining and sale of minerals. The Li clan of Zhao County mainly dealt in the production and sale of salt, fur, food, porcelain, tea, and so on. The Li clan of Longxi controlled the Silk Road of Longyu and everything related to the operation and maintenance of the Silk Road. In this way, they controlled almost all of the economy of the Tang dynasty. Jiangnan was the hinterland of the 5 surnames and 7 clans. It was also the center of the economy. Logically speaking, the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans would definitely take action when he came to Jiangnan. However, now it seemed, damn it, something was wrong. Yu Qigong saw that Zhang Feng's expression was slowly changing and said, "Now you also feel that something is wrong, right?" Zhang Feng nodded. After all, the spies of the Ministry of Personnel were almost all over the Tang dynasty. The news from here was almost the most reliable. Moreover, since Lao Li sent Old Yu here, Zhang Feng also knew that this time the problem should be very big. He hurriedly asked, "Old Yu, what else did Lord Zhang's son say? What kind of big move are the people of the 5 surnames and 7 clans preparing?" "I don't know, but the people from the Ministry of Personnel said that this time the 5 surnames and 7 clans have a big appetite and want to nibble away your industry. Then they will target you. I think this should be because you sent the white paper last time, which provoked them, right?" "About the white paper?" Zhang Feng frowned slightly. However, he could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Chapter 2173. That was indeed the case. If it wasn't for paper, the people from the 5 surnames and 7 clans would have already come knocking on their door, right? He was still a little rash. Zhang Feng couldn't help but sigh. The guards had come out too early. However, the Gao family's brilliant appearance seemed to be to lure the guards out. With this thought, Zhang Feng instantly understood a lot of things. At this moment, with paper and the perfume holding the fort, the people from the 5 surnames and 7 clans wouldn't make a move for the time being, right? Zhang Feng couldn't help but ask curiously, "Old Yu, logically speaking, even if we encounter such a situation, you won't be of much help, right?" Yu Qigong was stunned. "What are you talking about? I'm worried about you, so I'm here to help you and hold the fort at the same time." Seeing Yu Qigong's anxious eyes, Zhang Feng hurriedly begged for mercy. All right. Don't blow things up. It's good that you're here. At least I have someone to talk to relieve my boredom. Let me tell you, for the time being, we'll deal with the situation here by staying put." "What do you mean by staying put?" Yu Qigong didn't understand. He really didn't understand what Zhang Feng was planning. Seeing that Yu Qigong didn't understand, Zhang Feng sighed and said, "In that case, I'll give you a scientific explanation." Yu Qigong sniffled. "Can't you say something that I can understand? What does scientific explanation mean?" "All right, let's get straight to the point. First of all, I originally wanted to leave the white paper business to the Yu family. Since you're here and you know quite a bit about the process of making white paper, you'll be assisting you, from now on. Expand the business. Remember, expand as much as you can. As for the perfume, let the perfume we're releasing now brew in the market. Then, Yu Suqian will have work to do." Yu Qigong was stunned. He sniffled and said, "The perfume you're talking about is this fragrant thing?" "It's this thing." Yu Qigong's face was full of disdain. "This thing is for women. How can it make any money? Also, do you think this thing is useful? What a bore. This thing was really not something he could play with." Zhang Feng felt a bit of a headache and pointed out, "Old Yu, have you been to Swallow Descent restaurant before?" I heard that your family has no less than 10 wives? Ahem, why are you bringing this up? Zhang Feng said with a smile that wasn't a smile. For example, if you bring this perfume or spray a bit of this before going to Yanlai Lu, the number of girls who would turn their heads would definitely be 10 times more than before. Instantly, Yu Qigong's eyes lit up. Why didn't you give such a good thing to me when we were in Chang? You brat, you're not being honest. Zhang Feng glared and said, Big brother, do you think this thing is easy to get? Do you still remember how I bought flowers from Mrs. Xie in Chang'an? Yu Qigong said in realization, well, don't tell me it's caused by those dried flowers. Zhang Feng nodded and said, a few hundred kilograms of dried flowers can produce less than 5 kilograms of perfume. Think about it, isn't this ratio terrifying? Yu Qigong's eyeballs almost popped out. Zhang Feng continued, for men, this thing is a supplement that makes them more manly. And for women, there's no need to talk about it. Almost every man has 3 wives and 4 concubines, and women will fight for their affection. Yu Qigong agreed with what Zhang Feng said. You're right. Continue. Also, this thing is used in specific places, such as last night's poetry house or the mid-autumn poetry meet. What do you think will happen if it's used in such places? Will it become the most attractive thing? And think about which people use this thing the most? Seeing how mysterious Zhang Feng was, Yu Qigong thought for a moment and said subconsciously, you mean, this thing is prepared for those high-ranking officials? Zhang Feng gave him a thumbs up and said, that's right. And in 3 days, I'll be preparing for an auction. Don't ask me what an auction is. I have my own plans, and this perfume is the highlight. Just watch. Aren't all the old clans in Jiangnan united as one? Aren't the 5 families and 7 major clans united as one? Just watch as Lao Tzu tears them apart. You're really that confident? This time, Yu Qigong couldn't help but be stunned and asked cautiously. Zhang Feng nodded. That's right. Do you still remember the plan I mentioned when I left Chang'an? I've been planning this plan since then. Humans are greedy. No one and no clan is perfect. You'll definitely have people who are blinded by greed. We don't lack money. As long as we control these people's weaknesses, we won't have to worry about them not relenting. Moreover, you can't control people's hearts, so you have to focus on overseeing the Yu family. Focus on the production of white paper. Remember, only you know the formula. Also, every night, you have to send your trusted subordinates to patrol through the night. That's the most important thing. I'm afraid they'll act out of desperation and start a fire. Yu Qigong's face darkened when he heard this. Don't worry about that. This time, I've brought more than 1,000 men from Chang. Outside Jiangnan, there are more than 4,000 light cavalry elites and 90,000 elite soldiers on the way. If they dare, they can come to me. I'm not afraid of them using force. Zhang Feng nodded, but still said, don't be rash about this for the time being. Don't ruin the plan. I think the 5 families and 7 major clans will make a move, but no matter what, they'll have to wait for my order before they can act. Moreover, my plan is to completely drain all the cash in Jiangnan City within 2 months.